Chapter 459. Somewhere in the ancient battlefield, Chu Kuangren brought the white-robed general into a cave. Along the way they encountered many tormented souls. All of them were sent by Taoist Sha and giant tormented Sage King to chase after them. They were all taken care of by Chu Kuangren. I need to think of a way to remove this restriction of yours first. Chu Kuangren looked at the white-robed general in front of him and said. The baleful aura on the other party's body was connected to the earthen chi of the ancient battlefield. It was like an invisible shackle that firmly trapped the other party in the ancient battlefield. If he wanted to leave, he had to first undo the restrictions on the white-robed general. The restriction of the ancient battlefield has existed for a very long time. No one has ever been able to break it. Why don't you leave first? The white-robed general said. He did not want to implicate Chu Kuangren and Xiao Yu because of him. Since you're already here, how can you just leave like this? Don't you want to see the offspring of you and the princess with your own eyes? Hearing this, a glimmer of hope appeared in the white-robed general's eyes. He then bitterly smiled. I want to, but it's useless. Even if I can leave the ancient battlefield, my body is heavily injured and my killing intent is constantly leaking out. I probably won't be able to live for long. I'll think of something after we get out. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Things had to be dealt with one by one, so the first thing he needed to do now was to remove the ancient battlefield's restrictions for white-robed general. He pondered. The core area of the ancient battlefield was formed by countless saints fighting in a formation over tens of thousands of years. The earth energy here was special, and it was very likely that it had something to do with that formation. A formation? I wonder if this rune is useful. Chu Kuangren muttered as he activated his spiritual thought. The spiritual power around him converged and formed a mysterious rune on his palm. A strange wave of energy rippled out. He placed the runes on the white-robed general's body. Rune of Destruction. This was a sacred rune recorded in the mystic origin imperial scripture. It was used to counteract negative influences from the outside world. This talisman was extremely mysterious, but it was unclear what it was used for. Chu Kuangren did not know what the rune was used for, but he could only give it a try since the white-robed general was in such a situation. After a while, the white-robed general's body suddenly shook. He said in surprise, I feel like the ancient battlefield's restriction on me is weakening. Oh, it works. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. He raised his hand and condensed another destruction talisman. Gradually, the white-robed general sensed that the ancient battlefield's restraints on him were almost non-existent. He felt indescribably relaxed. Just as the white-robed general was released from his restraints, Taoist Sha, giant tormented Sage King, and the others had already set up an inescapable trap outside the cave. This was the ancient battlefield's core area, the turf of the tormented souls. As long as they searched carefully, it would not be difficult for them to locate Chu Kuangren. How dare you take away the innate ferocious sacrificial altar? I'll teach you a lesson. Looking at the cave, Taoist Sha's eyes flickered with coldness. Inside the cave, as Chu Kuangren untied white-robed general, he listened to him talk about the changes that had taken place in the ancient battlefield over the past few years. As it turned out, 3 years ago, a Taoist Sha suddenly appeared in the ancient battlefield. He used his powerful strength to conquer the entire ancient battlefield's core zone. He subdued Giant Torment Sage King and Blood Fury Sage King and made them work for him. For the past 3 years, Taoist Sha had been collecting innate ferocious chi to build an innate ferocious sacrificial altar. He wanted to use it to improve his foundation. As one of the 3 kings, the white-robed general had a large amount of innate ferocious chi on him. Since he did not submit to Taoist Sha, he became their primary target. Although the white-robed general had narrowly escaped death several times with his cultivation as a saint ruler, he was still captured a few months ago. That was how Chu Kuangren broke into the palace to rescue him. Taoist Sha. This name sounds familiar. Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin and said, Master, the 9 Heavens Sky Pride ranked 6th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard is this Taoist Sha. At that moment Lan Yu reminded him. They had been to the Divine Predictor Pavilion and seen the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Although they did not deliberately memorize the names on it, they still had some impression of it. No wonder he could conquer the entire ancient battlefield. He's a top-notch sky pride from the 9 heavens, Chu Kuangren murmured. His interest was piqued as he looked outside the cave. This is my first time dealing with someone from the 9 heavens. I wonder how strong he is. He's very strong. Most sage rulers are no match for him. The white-robed general said in a serious tone, coupled with giant tormented sage king and the other tormented souls, this battle will be very difficult. He stood up and looked outside the cave. He could already feel the tormented souls gathering outside. Do you have any weapons? The white-robed general asked. Apart from this mask, everything else that he had on him had been taken away, including his old weapons. You're a spear user, right? That's great. I killed Blood Fury Sage Ruler and he dropped one. Chu Kuangren took out the blood-colored spear that Blood Fury Sage Ruler used. It was a top-notch Sage Ruler weapon. Thank you. The white-robed general took the spear. The moment he held it, a familiar cold ferocious chi swept out from his body. Although he was extremely weak, he was still the same invincible white-robed general who dominated the battlefield with a spear in his hand. Lan Yu, keep an eye on him. Chu Kuangren said to Lan Yu. No matter how fierce the white-robed general's aura was, it could not hide the fact that he was heavily injured. He did not want to be the one collecting his opponent's corpse. The three of them walked out of the cave. What awaited them was a dense horde of tormented army. The leader of the tormented army was clad in black armor. His pitch-black eyes stared at Chu Kuangren with a cold, murderous intent. Chu Kuangren was also looking at him with his eye of revelation activated. Taoist Sha from the tormented tribe, an ancient orthodoxy of the 9 heavens. His physique is the infallible tormented physique. He cultivates the innate ferocious emperor scripture and is an honorable supreme. Chu Kuangren was quite surprised. He did not expect his opponent to also have the infallible tormented physique and cultivate an emperor scripture that was related to ferocious chi. No wonder he could improve his foundation by absorbing innate ferocious chi. Thief, hand over the innate ferocious altar and I'll grant you a quick death, Taoist Sha said coldly. However, what greeted him was the thousands of runic swords that Chu Kuangren formed with a raise of his hand. The runic sword chi poured out like a torrent and wreaked havoc between the heavens and the earth. Even the sage-level tormented army could not withstand such power. The thousands of runic swords tore open a huge gap in the tormented army that numbered in the tens of thousands. The unparalleled power made the tormented army's pupils dilate. No wonder Blood Fury Sage Ruler was defeated by him. This person's combat strength is no weaker than a sage ruler's. Giant Tormented Sage Ruler and the others looked extremely solemn, especially Giant Tormented Sage Ruler who recognized Chu Kuangren the moment he saw him. Chu Kuangren had come to the ancient battlefield a few years ago, but he could not even withstand a single finger of his. However, he could now kill a sage ruler. Chu Kuangren's speed of improvement shocked him. Let's go, Chu Kuangren said. He took a step forward and countless runic swords shuttled back and forth around him, killing every tormented soul that got close to him. The white-robed general and Lan Yu followed closely behind. Lan Yu immediately opened the black barrier to block all the tormented souls' attacks, allowing Chu Kuangren to focus on opening a path with his runic sword chi. Chapter 460. The runic sword chi shuttled back and forth among the tormented souls. One by one the tormented souls were easily killed and pulverized. None of them could get within 3 feet of Chu Kuangren, and none of them could break through the black gauze barrier. Heavenly ferocious Dharma idol form. At this moment, a terrifying murderous aura surged between heaven and earth. This ferocious aura was surging and turned into a heaven ferocious avatar that was 100 feet tall. It was the avatar that Taoist Sha had conjured. This avatar is even more powerful than the divine ferocious avatar that Chu Kuangren conjured 3 years ago. Its terrifying aura is earth-shattering. Is this the absolute ferocious Dharma form? Furthermore, he has cultivated the Heaven Fiend Imperial Sutra. Interesting. Although it was stronger than his divine ferocious avatar, Chu Kuangren did not really care. After all, the infallible tormented physique was just one of his many techniques. It would not affect him much even if he gave up on it. Stay here. Taoist Sha let out a furious roar as he activated his heavenly ferocious Dharma idol and punched out with all his might. A huge stretch of the void shook like waves in the sea. Chu Kuangren condensed lines of sage-grade runes and combined them with his own sword-based Taoist rhyme, turning them into an incredibly powerful giant sword that slashed out. There was a loud explosion, and the terrifying impact sent all the tormented souls in the surroundings flying. Even giant tormented sage ruler could not help but fall back a few feet. What a terrifying rune energy. Taoist Sha was blasted a few hundred meters away by the impact of the runic energy and crashed into a mountain peak. He looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. The other party had the protection of the black veil, and the impact was disintegrated bit by bit. Seeing this, Taoist Sha took out a palm-sized bell made of an unknown material. Terrifying Taoist rhymes circulated around the bell. To be able to make me use the heavenly fiend bell, you should be honored. Taoist Sha grunted coldly and was about to make his move. However, at that moment Chu Kuangren suddenly pointed towards the sky from afar. What did that mean? Taoist Sha was confused. Then he looked up into the sky and his pupils shrank. A gigantic silver-white rune enveloped the entire tormented army, and like a meteor crashing into the ground, it smashed into the army. The surrounding space seemed to have turned into a quagmire, making it difficult for everyone to move. Even Taoist Sha could feel waves of pressure. These are spatial runes. He can actually condense spatial runes of this scale. Taoist Sha was astonished. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren had used the spatial solidification rune to imprison the tormented soul. He did not stay for long and quickly left with Lan Yu and white-robed general. Although the effect of the congeal talisman was strong, Taoist Sha wasn't completely confined. He was still able to fight under the effect of the congeal talisman. Moreover, his opponent had a powerful weapon in his hand. A prolonged battle wouldn't be beneficial. He decided to leave with the white-robed general first. You want to leave? Dream on. Taoist Sha activated his heavenly ferocious Dharma idol and broke free from the restraints of the Ning talisman. However, just as he was about to give chase, dozens of talisman swords flew over from the horizon. Each of these runic swords possessed the strength to kill a sage. Even Taoist Sha had to focus and defend against them. By then Chu Kuangren and the others had already left. When the effect of the freeze talisman wore off, everyone had already disappeared. Taoist Sha was furious. Chase them. He roared and led the tormented souls to give chase. However, after a few hundred meters, mysterious runes suddenly appeared in the void and transformed into lightning, wind, frost, and fire rocks. All sorts of natural energies filled the air and crashed into the tormented army. Although the power of these runes was not as strong as the runic swords that Chu Kuangren had condensed, their power was not to be underestimated. Moreover, there were so many of them that the tormented army was thrown into confusion and many of them were injured. D*****. Taoist Sha was so angry that his mouth twitched. Master Taoist Sha, we don't know how many more rune traps that guy has set along the way. I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up to him. Giant tormented sage ruler sighed helplessly. Taoist Sha stared ahead coldly, but he knew that what giant tormented sage ruler said made sense. They might not be able to catch up to him anymore. However, the innate ferocious altar was the key to improving his foundation. And now it was gone. Even without the innate ferocious altar, I must become a sage as soon as possible. I can't fall behind Xiao Jingchen by too much. Now that things have come to this, that's the only way. Taoist Sha's eyes revealed a hint of ruthlessness. Don't worry, Master Taoist. We can find more innate ferocious qi. We're willing to go through fire and water for Master Taoist. Giant tormented sage ruler took the opportunity to express his loyalty. He knew that Taoist Sha came from an extremely powerful force. If he could befriend Taoist Sha, he might even have a chance to leave this ancient battlefield and follow Taoist Sha to a wider world. Is that so? I'm very pleased that you're so loyal. If that's the case, are you willing to die for me? Taoist Sha said indifferently. Giant tormented sage ruler and the others were shocked when they heard that. They could not figure out what Taoist Sha meant. However, at that moment, Taoist Sha took out the black bell and activated it with his spiritual power. The bell expanded with the wind and became extremely huge. Following that, a series of bell chimes erupted from the bell. Terrifying ferocious qi swept in all directions and attacked the tormented souls. Even a powerhouse like giant tormented sage ruler could not help but feel his body cracking under the ringing of the bell. Master Taoist Sha, what are you doing? The tormented souls were extremely terrified. Didn't you say that you're willing to go through fire and water for me? Since the innate ferocious altar is gone, I'll have to use your ferocious qi to improve my foundation. What's wrong? Are you going to go back on your words? Daoist Sha did not hold back as he activated the bell with all his might. The sonorous sound waves mixed with ferocious chi spread out, crushing the tormented souls one by one. Even giant tormented sage ruler was no exception. They wanted to escape, but they could not escape from the range of the sonorous sound waves. Not long after, all the tormented souls were dead, leaving only surges of innate ferocious chi where they stood. Daoist Sha absorbed the innate ferocious chi into his body, but he did not look happy at all. This level of innate ferocious chi is far inferior to the innate ferocious altar, but this is the best I can do. D***MN. Thief, once I become a sage I'll find out who you are and cut you into 1,000 pieces. There was no one else in the entire firmament star who was as proficient in runes as Chu Kuangren. He believed that he could find out who he was if he asked around. When that time came he would definitely make him pay. Far away, Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu and the white-robed general had successfully walked out of the ancient battlefield's core area. On top of the elusive mirage, Chu Kuangren opened his eyes. This Daoist Sha is quite ruthless. His spiritual thought had just returned from the ancient battlefield, and he had witnessed the scene of Daoist Sha slaughtering the tormented souls. Of course, he had also heard that Daoist Sha wanted to seek revenge on him. However, he did not care much about that. Revenge? There were countless people in this world who wanted his life and revenge. It did not matter if Daoist Sha was dead or alive. Next, I should think of a way to heal the white-robed general's injuries. Besides, the seal within my body is about to be released, Chu Kuangren murmured. Chapter 461. Inside the elusive mirage. Chu Kuangren was observing the white-robed general's injuries. Even though he had broken free, the ferocious chi on his body was still fading away. Although the speed was much slower, it was still fading away. White-robed general, one of the ancient battlefield's 3 kings. Chu Kuangren used his eye of revelation to check on the white-robed general's condition. His internal foundation has been damaged and his innate ferocious chi is fading away. His physical body is slowly fading away. If there's no remedy, he'll probably die in 7 days. The information from the eye of revelation made Chu Kuangren frown. 7 days. The white-robed general only had 7 days left to live? What should he do? Chu Kuangren pondered. Fellow Daoist Chu, I know my situation best. Before I die, I would like to see my descendants. Is that possible? The white-robed general said calmly. It was as if he did not care about his impending death. To him he was already a dead man. It was the princess of the Lu kingdom who used a secret technique to prolong his life, allowing him to live on in this world. His only wish now was to see his descendants. They were his and her descendants. It's not that you can't see them, but I don't think it's a good idea for you to meet them in this state. Chu Kuangren laughed. I'll just take a look at them. Stop teasing me. We'll talk about it when my body recovers. My body is like a candle in the wind. There's no way I can save it, the white-robed general said with a bitter smile. If I say you can, then you can. Chu Kuangren said calmly. He then took out a black altar with surges of innate ferocious chi circling around it. Let's take a gamble. This innate ferocious altar was used by Daoist Sha to improve his foundation, and it just so happened that your foundation was destroyed. Perhaps this item will be useful to you. No matter how bad the situation is, it won't be worse than now. Chu Kuangren said. The white-robed general hesitated for a while. He looked at the innate ferocious altar and took a deep breath. All right, let's give it a try. He was a decisive general. Since he had decided to give it a try, he immediately got up and walked towards the innate ferocious altar. The 4 black stone pillars on the altar seemed to have sensed something. They trembled and emitted a faint black light. Then the innate ferocious chi within the altar gushed towards the white-robed general and seeped into his limbs. Even the white-robed general couldn't help but groan in pain. Innumerable amounts of innate ferocious chi tunneled into his body, transforming his body and reshaping his foundation. This method of transformation was extremely barbaric, and the white-robed general did not know how to control it. He could only let the innate ferocious chi run amok in his body like wild horses, wreaking havoc everywhere. Do I need to stop? Chu Kuangren asked calmly. He was already prepared to use his mind power to pull his opponent down from the altar. The white-robed general extended his hand and said, There's no need for that. Although this innate ferocious energy is violent, it's useful. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation. White-robed general, recovering foundation. Modifying constitution. Current progress, 1%. Looks like my luck is pretty good. I made the right bet. Chu Kuangren smiled. From the looks of it, it would take at least half a month for the white-robed general to completely recover. In other words, he would have to endure the pain of being transformed for half a month. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to endure it. However, when Chu Kuangren saw the determined look on the white-robed general's face, he knew that time was not an issue at all. The white-robed general's willpower was not something an ordinary cultivator could compare to. I hope that when we meet again in half a month, you'll be reborn. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then he activated the elusive mirage's defensive force field and set up several runic seals to hide the entire elusive mirage in the void. Next, I'll enter the final stage of unsealing. Chu Kuangren murmured. He handed the elusive mirage over to Lan Yu and walked into one of the lofts within the elusive mirage. He then went into closed-door meditation to prepare to unseal it. During this period, the firmament star was extremely lively. Ever since Xiao Jingchen became a sage, the sky prides of the 9 heavens began to ascend one by one as if they had an agreement. Moreover, the commotion caused by their ascension was not small at all. Everyone's ascension into a sage was extremely powerful. There were even 2 7-colored heavenly tribulations like Xiao Jingchen that shocked half of the firmament star. Those 2 were Wang Tianting, who was ranked 4th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, and Zhan Hongying, who had returned to 2nd place after becoming a sage. Both of them were rare sky prides throughout history. Most of their ascension into sages were 7-colored heavenly tribulations, which was no weaker than Xiao Jingchen's. Besides those 3, there were a few other sky prides whose ascension into sages also received a lot of attention. Among them, Daoist Sha, who was ranked 6th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, ascended into a sage using ferocious qi in the ancient battlefield. Although his heavenly tribulations were not 7-colored heavenly tribulations, they were not any weaker than the latter. There were also some boundary sages who had already ascended into the sage realm. Not to be outdone, they also used various opportunities of fortune to break through to the sage realm. As more and more sky prides and sages appeared, the older generation of sages were reduced to mere foils. They were used as tools for the sky prides to challenge and make a name for themselves. Today, another hot topic appeared on the firmament star. The Heavenly Golden Palace. A loud voice suddenly erupted from a mountain peak. I, Xiao Jingchen, wish to challenge Chu Kuangren to a duel at the Skyraiser Mountain in 3 days. I hope Chu Kuangren will be punctual. The cultivators who heard the voice were shocked and quickly spread the news. Soon, everyone in the firmament star knew about it. Everyone was shocked. Xiao Jingchen wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren. He wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren, who had single-handedly destroyed the craggy ocean tower. This battle attracted the attention of many great ones. Xiao Jingchen's heavenly golden imperial physique is many times stronger than Xiao Lintian's. Moreover, he has ascended into a sage through the 7-colored heavenly tribulations. Perhaps he might stand a chance against Chu Kuangren. That's right. Since Chu Kuangren has been sealed by the heavenly punishment seal, he can only use his runic techniques. It seems like Xiao Jingchen still has a high chance of winning. Interesting. What about Chu Kuangren? What's his response? Just when everyone was excited about Xiao Jingchen's challenge to Chu Kuangren, another sky pride spoke. This time it was Daoist Sha from the ancient battlefield. Similarly, he also wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren. Everyone was extremely shocked. It was understandable for Xiao Jingchen to challenge Chu Kuangren. After all, he was an ancient sky pride from the Heavenly Golden Palace, and the Heavenly Golden Palace had a deep grudge against Chu Kuangren. Hence, it was reasonable for him to challenge Chu Kuangren. Why did Daoist Sha want to challenge Chu Kuangren? Inside the ancient battlefield, Daoist Sha sat in one of the palaces with deep hatred in his eyes. Compared to Xiao Jingchen, he hated Chu Kuangren even more. He had investigated and found out that it was Chu Kuangren who had stolen the innate ferocious altar, causing his foundation level to be unable to reach its peak. Initially, he had the chance to establish a 7th grade sage foundation level. However, because of Chu Kuangren, he only managed to achieve a 5th grade sage foundation level. Although they were only 2 grades apart, their potential, talent, and strength were worlds apart. How could Taoist Sha not hate Chu Kuangren? He hated him to the core. He could not wait to skin Chu Kuangren alive and eat him alive. Chapter 462. News of Xiao Jingchen and Taoist Sha challenging Chu Kuangren had spread throughout the entire firmament star, and every cultivator was paying close attention to this matter. Everyone was also waiting for Chu Kuangren's response. However, for 3 consecutive days, even after the time limit for the battle had passed, there was still no response from Chu Kuangren, let alone any sign of him. All the great ones were looking for Chu Kuangren. Their spiritual thoughts scanned the entire firmament star, but to no avail. With Chu Kuangren's abilities, it was too easy for him to hide. As long as he willed it, no one could find him. Hide. This statement caused all the cultivators to be extremely shocked. Chu Kuangren knew how to hide. Oh God. What the hell? That was Chu Kuangren, the #1 lunatic in history. How could a lunatic like him know how to hide? Most of them believed that he was delayed by something. However, the Heavenly Golden Palace disciples did not think so. To them, Chu Kuangren was afraid of Xiao Jingchen and did not dare to show up. Chu Kuangren? That's all he's got. He can only hide in his shell in front of the young master. Chu Kuangren was terrifying. This was something that everyone acknowledged. Even the people from the Heavenly Golden Palace knew about it. That was also the reason why they were so frustrated by Chu Kuangren. Now they finally had a chance to turn the tables. It did not matter why Chu Kuangren did not show up. What was important was that Xiao Jingchen had challenged Chu Kuangren, and he did not show up. That was enough for them to show off. Under the Heavenly Golden Palace's propaganda, Chu Kuangren became a coward who did not dare to show up because he was afraid of Xiao Jingchen. His reputation as a madman was ruined. It was not just the Heavenly Golden Palace. The disciples of Ethereal Rapture, Acheron Manor, Sacred Palace of Death, and the Bottomless Chasm who had a grudge against Chu Kuangren were also using this opportunity to belittle Chu Kuangren and ruin his reputation. What Chu Kuangren? He's just a coward who doesn't even dare to accept a challenge. It seems like he's really fallen. That's right. It's the heir of Xiao Jingchen and the others now. #1 on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard? What a joke. The few Orthodoxy's disciples continued to slander Chu Kuangren. At first there were some who didn't believe it. However, the slanderous voices grew louder and louder. Chu Kuangren did not appear at all, nor did he respond. It was as if he had really gone into hiding, as the others had said. As time passed, those who believed in Chu Kuangren gradually wavered. Could it be that Chu Kuangren was truly afraid? It was no wonder. After all, Xiao Jingchen's sage ascension tribulation was earth-shattering, and Chu Kuangren himself had been struck by the heavenly punishment seal. It was very likely that he would not be a match for Xiao Jingchen. It made sense that the other party did not dare to fight. As time went by, Chu Kuangren seemed to have solidified his reputation as a coward. The title of Kuangren is extremely disappointing. The Heavenly Golden Palace's Xiao Jingchen spread the news that Chu Kuangren had failed to keep his appointment, causing his reputation to rise once again. Compared to Xiao Jingchen, Taoist Sha's reaction was much more intense. He immediately declared that if Chu Kuangren did not show up, he would kill his way into the Black Heaven sect and slaughter the entire sect. 2 days after the announcement, there was still no response. Humph. Chu Kuangren, if that's the case, then don't blame me for this. Inside the ancient battlefield, Taoist Sha snorted and leaped into the sky. Not long after, he appeared outside the Black Heaven sect's great formation. Many people in the firmament star had noticed his actions. They knew that he was here to cause trouble for the Black Heaven sect today. This Taoist Sha really is a man of his word. He said he would destroy the Black Heaven sect, and he did it just like that. I wonder if he can break the formation? I don't think so. This formation is not that easy to break. The crowd discussed and paid attention to Taoist Sha. At that moment, Taoist Sha was standing outside the astonishing cloud of seas formation with ferocious chi swirling around his body. He looked like a demon that had just walked out of a Shura battlefield. You think you can stop me with a mere formation? What a joke. Taoist Sha dashed into the astonishing cloud of seas formation. The astonishing cloud of seas formation blocked everyone's spiritual thoughts, so they could barely sense the powerful energy fluctuations coming from within. After a day and a night, Taoist Sha walked out of the great formation with a gloomy expression. His aura was weak and his hair was messy. Although he did not suffer any obvious injuries, he still looked like a mess. Behind him, the astonishing cloud of cease formation was still operating. Evidently, he had failed to break the formation. The crowd fell silent. Although they were surprised by the result, they felt that it was reasonable. After all, this great formation had killed countless enemies 3 years ago. It was known as the #1 formation in Firmament Star. Even a sage ruler would not dare to enter it. Daoist Sha's failure did not shock them too much. ****. I can't believe that the Black Heaven sect has such a formation. Countless formations are interconnected and impossible to defend against. And that Cloud Dragon's combat strength is on par with mine. If I didn't use the innate ferocious bell at the end, I wouldn't have been able to walk out of this formation unscathed. Daoist Sha turned to look at the astonishing cloud of cease formation behind him with a complicated look in his eyes. Even in the 9 heavens, it's rare to see a formation like this. Where did Chu Kuangren get it from? This formation is too difficult to break. I'll have to think of another way. News of Daoist Sha's failure to break the formation had many people laughing in their hearts. They felt that Daoist Sha had been slapped in the face. However, what Daoist Sha did next shocked everyone even more. After failing to break the formation, Daoist Sha did not give up on his plan to force Chu Kuangren out. Instead, he changed his strategy. He used his powerful strength to subdue a few orthodoxies and then asked them to find some people for him. Those people were all Black Heaven sect disciples. To be more precise, they were former disciples of the Black Heaven sect. Back then, when the Black Heaven sect was besieged by many forces, no one thought that the Black Heaven sect could turn the tide. Hence, many disciples left the Black Heaven sect and joined other forces. Yet now Daoist Sha had captured those people. He had announced, for every day that Chu Kuangren did not show up, he would kill 1,000 people. Such an insane act shocked every cultivator in the Firmament Star. Just how much hatred did this person have for Chu Kuangren? On the first day, Chu Kuangren did not show up. In the ancient battlefield, 1,000 heads fell to the ground. On the second day, Chu Kuangren still did not show up. Daoist Sha burned 1,000 people to death. Far away in the astonishing cloud of cease formation, the Black Heaven sect naturally received the news and was furious at Daoist Sha's actions. This Daoist Sha is worse than a beast. No matter what, those people were once disciples of the Black Heaven sect. Although they have nothing to do with us now, Daoist Sha's actions are undoubtedly a provocation to the Black Heaven sect and the sect leader. Elder Rian, what should we do? Inside the Longevity Hall, the elders gathered together. Elder Rian took a deep breath and said calmly, "Let's wait and see. Let's wait for the sect leader to show up." One of the elders hesitated. "Those disciples. What disciple?" Elder Rian replied with a question. The elders fell silent. They have nothing to do with the Black Heaven sect anymore. I don't blame them for leaving back then, but at the same time, there's no need for us to put ourselves in danger for them, Elder Rian said. No one blamed her for being ruthless. After all, she did it to protect the Black Heaven sect. Understood. Then let's wait for the sect leader to show up. Chapter 463. The news of Daoist Sha massacring the Black Heaven sect's former disciples had spread like wildfire in the Firmament Star. Countless people were watching. No one stood up to accuse him and no one dared to. On the contrary, orthodoxies like the Heavenly Golden Palace who had a grudge against Chu Kuangren were more than happy to see that happen. Hence they worked even harder to slander Chu Kuangren. This Chu Kuangren is really cold-blooded. No matter what, these people used to be disciples of the Black Heaven sect, and yet he didn't do anything about it. He's willing to sacrifice his disciples' lives just to protect himself. So this is the Black Heaven sect leader? How disgusting. The voices of slander increased day by day. Meanwhile, in the ancient battlefield, Sha Lingzi looked at the rising sun from afar and grinned. He then looked at the terrified cultivators behind him and said, "Your sect leader still hasn't shown up today, so all of you must die. We're no longer disciples of the Black Heaven sect. Chu Kuangren has no reason to fight for us. It's useless even if you kill us all," one of the cultivators said loudly. "It doesn't matter if it works or not, I still have to try," Daoist Sha said calmly. He then raised his hand to gather the ferocious chi of heaven and earth and was about to kill another 1,000 people. However, a sword ray flashed past. The sword ray was extremely bright, and it carried an incredibly sharp aura as it ruthlessly slashed towards Daoist Shah's arm. The sword ray flashed past, but Daoist Shah's arm trembled. The sword ray landed on his arm, but it did not hurt him at all. Oh, someone's here to die. It was two young sword-wielding men. Daoist Shah revealed a playful look when he saw them. 49th and 51st on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard, Murong Xian and Nangong Huang. I can't believe that you two are here to die before Chu Kuangren. It's hard to say who will win. Nangong Huang said calmly. An incredibly powerful aura erupted from his body, and a majestic sage's aura swept out like a tidal wave. Beside him, Murong Xian also released his aura. Oh, you've become a sage. No wonder you dare to come after me. But do you think you're a match for me just because you're a sage? You've overestimated yourself. Daoist Shah sneered. The sage's aura was several times stronger than Murong Xian and Nangong Huang. The tyrannical aura directly suppressed them. The top 10 geniuses are indeed extraordinary, Nangong Huang said solemnly. He had long known that the two of them would not be a match for him. However, they had no choice but to come. Now the entire firmament star was looking at Chu Kuangren and the Black Heaven sect as a joke. The voices of slandering and questioning increased day by day. This time they did not stand out to save people. It was to protect the reputation of the orthodoxy. Nangong Huang shouted in a low voice. Yin and yang divine light flowed in his eyes, resonating with the holy sword in his hand. His combat power was raised to its peak. When the sword slashed out, the sword chi merged with the yin-yang divine light. It was incomparably powerful. Murong Xian had also gone all out. Large amounts of sword chi gushed out of his body and condensed in the void, turning into many fiery red suns. 9 suns in the same sky. Kill. The 9 suns formed a line and suddenly slashed out. Daoist Shah revealed a look of disdain towards the two completely different sword chi Daoist rhymes. You guys are too weak. Saying so, he raised his hand and activated his killing intent. A horrifying divine ferocious avatar instantly formed. The divine ferocious avatar unleashed a punch, and its majestic ferocious chi gushed out like a tidal wave, shattering the combined sword chi of the two in an instant. Nangong Huang and Murong Xian were forced back hundreds of meters by the terrifying impact. Their sage bodies suffered from the impact and they could not help but spit out blood. In the past few years they had improved by leaps and bounds. They had even ascended to become sages, and their foundations were strong enough to rival veteran sages. However, compared to sky prides like Daoist Shah who came from the 9 heavens and inherited ancient orthodoxies, there was still a huge gap. You guys think you can fight me? What a joke. Oh well, let's see if Chu Kuangren will come out after I kill you guys. Daoist Shah activated the divine ferocious avatar. At that moment, Nangong Huang took out an item. It was a magnificent scroll. The scroll soared into the sky and revealed a scene of mountains and rivers. One after another, bestial soul beasts rushed out and bit at Daoist Shah. That's the craggy ocean tower's mountain sea scroll. I can't believe it's in their hands. The sages who were watching the battle were extremely shocked. The mountain sea scroll was the boundary emperor weapon of the craggy ocean tower. After the battle 3 years ago, it was taken by the Black Heaven sect. When Nangong Huang and the others descended into the world, Elder Rian gave it to them. With the help of this item, Nangong Huang and Murong Xian's combat strength increased tremendously. Among those strange beasts there were some sage-level beasts. Humph, what a cheap trick. Daoist Shah snorted coldly as ferocious chi surged from his body. The divine ferocious avatar unleashed a few punches into the void, and with each punch, a large number of the strange beast's bestial souls would dissipate. Its strength was comparable to that of a sage ruler. Not long after, countless strange beasts were wiped out. The 4 strongest wild beasts' bestial souls in the Mountain Sea Scroll had been destroyed by Chu Kuangren 3 years ago, so their strength was no longer what it used to be. What other tricks do you guys have? If not, then die. The divine ferocious avatar behind Daoist Shah shook the void, and surging ferocious chi surged into the sky, causing many sages to shudder. Daoist Shah's strength is too strong. Nangong Huang and Murong Xian are no match for him at all. If this goes on, These two Sky Pride sages of the Black Heaven sect will die here. I wonder if Chu Kuangren will feel sorry for them? Some of the sages pondered. Meanwhile, Nangong Huang and Murong Xian knew that they were no match for Daoist Sha. They looked at each other and each took out a talisman. It was a great shift talisman. It was one of the treasures in the serpent deity's treasury. It was also one of the reasons why they dared to approach Daoist Sha. Although the two of them were hot-blooded, they were not stupid people. They had long prepared to leave if they were no match for Daoist Sha. Daoist Sha also noticed their actions. His eyes turned cold and he was about to attack as fast as he could to stop them. However, at that moment, a strange fluctuation suddenly appeared between the heavens and the earth. This fluctuation made the great ones in Firmament Star narrow their eyes. They all looked at the source of the fluctuation in disbelief. Suddenly, a large amount of purple haze rose from the sky, and Taoist rhymes reverberated. It was accompanied by the silhouettes of divine beasts such as Chilants, divine dragons, phoenixes and white beasts. The auspicious intent gradually covered the entire firmament star. The purple haze stretched for 30,000 miles. It was extremely majestic. The sight before them shocked all the cultivators in Firmament Star. Purple haze from the east. Legend has it that only a supreme sage will have this phenomenon. A sage said with a trembling voice. Who is it? Who has become a supreme sage? Is it a Sky Pride on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard? The top 10 Sky Prides on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard have all become sages. It's impossible for anyone to trigger this phenomenon. No, there's someone else. Someone thought of something. 3 years ago, this phenomenon happened when Chu Kuangren became a sage. It's impossible for two supreme sages to appear consecutively in 3 years. Could it be? At that moment, countless sages gulped. They had already thought of a possibility. This possibility shocked them to the core. It was even more shocking than seeing a supreme sage appear. Chu Kuangren unlocked the heavenly punishment seal. Chapter 464. It was not just Firmament Star. The purple haze 15,000 miles from the east phenomenon appeared in the 9 heavens and hell once again, shocking the great ones of both realms. The purple haze 15,000 miles from the east phenomenon has appeared twice in the past 3 years. The probability of this happening is just too low. Could it be the same person? Just what did he do to cause such a phenomenon to appear twice in a row? We must investigate this matter carefully. The great ones of both realms did not know how to react. At this moment, somewhere in the sky of Firmament Star, a gigantic ferry boat suddenly appeared in the void. A creak could be heard. Figure walked out of a room. The young man was dressed in a spotless white robe. He was so handsome that he looked like an immortal who had descended from the heavens. Unlike the previous mortal aura that had no spiritual power fluctuations, the current Chu Kuangren's aura could not be detected at all. He gave off an unfathomable feeling just by standing there. As Chu Kuangren walked out of the room, the purple haze in the surroundings seemed to have found a home and surged towards him. A huge amount of purple haze surged towards him. Each of these purple hazes contained an extremely mysterious Taoist rhyme. Just one of them could allow a cultivator below the level of a sage to quickly break through to the next realm. However, the number of purple hazes that entered Chu Kuangren's body now numbered in the tens of millions. It was hard to imagine how strong his foundation had become. Inside the spiritual mound, the crisscrossing heavenly punishment shackles had disappeared. Countless amounts of purple haze had entered, causing the sage realm lotus heart to solidify. When the lotus heart reached its peak of 9 petals, less than 10% of the purple haze had been used. Chu Kuangren was speechless. It was too terrifying. The amount of purple haze was just too terrifying. Chu Kuangren had heard of the purple haze 15,000 miles from the east phenomenon when a supreme sage was born. However, that was just a phenomenon. The amount of purple haze that a sage could obtain was definitely not as much as what he had. A huge amount of purple haze filled his body. After the lotus heart solidified, the purple haze began to transform his body. His blood, bones, muscles, and even every cell were constantly being washed by the purple haze and gradually began to transform. Chu Kuangren's supreme sage body was gradually taking shape. He could clearly feel that his life's level was increasing infinitely. His physical strength was increasing at a crazy rate. 100 times, 1,000 times, it seemed to be endless. This kind of thing, if those cultivators who had cultivated their bodies for a lifetime were to know about it, it was unknown how ashamed they would be. It was not an exaggeration to say that Chu Kuangren's physical body was improving at a speed that was comparable to that of others who had been cultivating their physique for a lifetime. No one would believe such a thing if they were to say it out loud. Not long after, Chu Kuangren's supreme sage body was completely formed. At this moment his body was like a sparkling and translucent gem. His meridians, flesh and internal organs were all clearly visible. In that body, even a single drop of blood contained a strong sage Taoist rhyme, and a single drop of blood was comparable to 90% of all spirit pills and medicines in the world. At the side, Lan Yu was dumbfounded. Even after Chu Kuangren's body had returned to normal, she still could not come back to her senses. Chu Kuangren's transformation was still ongoing. The foundation of a supreme sage and the body of a supreme sage. After all this was done, he had only used less than 20% of the large amount of purple qi. There was still more than half of the purple qi in his body. The purple qi moved in his body and finally seemed to have found a new target. It quickly surged toward his brain. But when they got close to the brain, they all disappeared. No, they did not disappear. Chu Kuangren could feel that the purple qi was still there. It was just that it had been absorbed by a certain part of him. It was his soul. The purple qi was going to transform his soul. The transformation of the soul could not be seen or touched, but Chu Kuangren could clearly feel it. He realized that his mind was unprecedentedly clear, and some of his abilities had been greatly enhanced. The world in front of him seemed to have changed. As long as he willed it, he could capture the Taoist rhyme between the heavens and the earth at any time. That was the embodiment of his enhanced comprehensive ability. Originally, he had the meditational clarity attribute, so his comprehensive ability was already monstrous. Now that the purple qi had transformed his soul, he even wondered if he could understand an emperor technique in the future. Moreover, comprehensive ability was only one of the side effects of the strengthened soul. The mind power that originated from his soul had also received an unprecedented enhancement. Chu Kuangren moved his mind and an invisible mind power spread out, gradually covering the entire firmament star. That's right, the entire firmament star. Countless information surged in from all directions. There was too much information, such as which family was having a wedding, which family had a cultivation genius, which family had a new baby, which place was having a battle. He even saw Gu Linglong, who was far away in the royal Azure dynasty, dealing with some government affairs. As if she had noticed his gaze, she raised her head and looked at him with a puzzled expression. There was too much mixed information surged into his mind, almost causing Chu Kuangren's brain to crash. He quickly cut off the information from the outside world, but through the information he had just read, he also knew some of the things that had happened in the outside world. For example, the Sky Prides had become sages one after another and he was being challenged. Also, what was happening in the ancient battlefield right now. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Good Taoist Sha, I'll start with you later. The transformation was still ongoing. The soul's endurance seemed to be much higher than his physical body and foundation. Most of the purple qi had been absorbed, leaving only the last 2 to 3%. Chu Kuangren seemed to have thought of something. He held the descendant self-sword by his waist and channeled the remaining purple qi into the sword. In an instant, the descendant self-sword's soul trembled, and a piercing sword hum reverberated in the sky, lasting for a long time. The descendant self-sword's power had risen to another level. It was one step closer to becoming an emperor weapon, and the purple qi's function was to enhance its growth potential. This would be of great help to the sword soul's future growth. As for Chu Kuangren, there was no need to mention it. He had the Supreme Sage's body, Supreme Sage's foundation, and Supreme Sage's spirit. His physical body, foundation, and soul had all reached the limits of the sage realm. Even a sage ruler could not compare to him. His growth potential was even more immeasurable. This was the power of a supreme sage. Though perhaps even a supreme sage was not as terrifying as Chu Kuangren. Such generosity was like a gift from the heavens. A heavenly sage. The heavenly punishment seal is both a restraint and a test. Is this the result of passing the test? Chu Kuangren murmured. He did not think about it anymore. With a thought, he instantly arrived above the ancient battlefield. Inside the ancient battlefield, Taoist Sha and the other sages were still immersed in the purple haze 10,000 miles from the east phenomenon. Even after the phenomenon had dissipated, everyone was still in a daze. Someone has become a supreme sage in the firmament star. Who is it? Who is it? Daoist Sha was in disbelief. That was a supreme sage they were talking about. Throughout the history of the firmament star, there were only a handful of them since ancient times. Just when Daoist Sha was in disbelief, the sky suddenly surged, and a terrifying aura descended upon the ancient battlefield. Chapter 465. In the sky above the ancient battlefield, a powerful aura suddenly descended upon them. The pressure was extremely terrifying, like the might of the heavens. Everyone present trembled. Even though they could only sense the pressure through their spiritual senses, their bodies still trembled uncontrollably. Who is it? Whose aura is so powerful? Is it a boundary emperor? Is it a boundary emperor? No, it's not a boundary emperor. A boundary emperor's aura shouldn't be like this. This aura contains a sage's Taoist rhyme. Are you kidding me? Which sage could be so powerful? Hold on. Everyone seemed to have thought of something. Didn't someone become a supreme sage just now? While everyone was guessing, the sky above the ancient battlefield suddenly surged and a large number of clouds converged to form a face. That face was extremely cold and filled with the aura of the heavens. Everyone was extremely familiar with that face. Chu Kuangren. He really did become a supreme sage. The heavenly punishment seal that no one has ever been able to break since ancient times has been broken by him. At that moment, all the great ones in the firmament star were shocked. They felt like their worldview was about to collapse. I heard that you're looking for me? At that moment, Chu Kuangren's face in the sky spoke with a thunderous voice that shook the mountains and rivers for thousands of miles. Daoist Sha looked at the face in the sky with a pale face. He was speechless as his heart was filled with fear. Such an aura, what kind of being did he provoke? Chu Kuangren, stop trying to fool me. It's just an illusion. If you have the guts, show yourself and fight me. Daoist Sha gritted his teeth and shouted. That was right. This must be an illusion. How could there be such a powerful sage in this world? It was impossible. Oh, do you think you're worthy to fight me? However, your actions in the past few days have already sealed your fate. Since you want to die, I don't mind fulfilling your wish. The rest of you, if you don't want to die, leave the ancient battlefield now. Chu Kuangren said. In an instant, Nangong Huang, Murong Xian, and the other captured cultivators rushed out of the ancient battlefield. Meanwhile, the tormented souls in the ancient battlefield were all locked onto by Chu Kuangren's aura and could not move at all. One palm. After most of the people had left, Chu Kuangren spoke. Gather all the power you can and take out all your trump cards. As long as you can take one of my palm strikes, you won't die. Chu Kuangren's voice reverberated throughout the realm. All the cultivators who were paying attention to the ancient battlefield wore solemn expressions. This was an opportunity for them to witness Chu Kuangren's true strength, so they could not miss it. However, at the same time they had many doubts as well. They could tell that the gigantic face in front of them was merely a manifestation of Chu Kuangren's spiritual thoughts. His real body was not here at all. Then how was he going to use that palm? Chu Kuangren, don't look down on me too much. I'm a Sky Pride ranked 6th on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. I can even fight against a sage ruler, let alone take a palm attack from you. Not to mention one palm strike, defeating you isn't impossible. Daoist Sha roared and said angrily. The ominous aura on his body surged and was pushed to the extreme. It actually resonated with the ominous aura of the entire ancient battlefield, forming a gigantic heavenly ferocious Dharma idol that stood proudly against the unparalleled might of the heavens. Heh. Chu Kuangren chuckled. You can give it a try then. As soon as he said that, the sky suddenly began to distort. Waves of horrifying spatial fluctuations appeared. Tathagata Rebirth Mantra. Chu Kuangren's indifferent voice echoed throughout the sky. A gigantic golden palm suddenly appeared in the distorted sky. It was like the hand of God that could destroy everything in its path. The boundless Buddhist light surged in the void like a tsunami. Wherever it touched, tormented souls were instantly purified. Even the sage-level tormented souls were no exception. No one knew where Chu Kuangren had unleashed that palm attack from, and no one knew how he managed to send it over. However, when that palm attack appeared, everyone shuddered. That terrifying domineering aura and that boundless Buddhist light made them suspect that the owner of that palm attack was a real Buddhist emperor. What? Taoist Shah's expression instantly turned into one of extreme fear. How is this possible? How can a sage unleash such a palm attack? Innate ferocious bell rise. Taoist Shah took out the bell that he had used to slaughter the tormented souls in the ancient battlefield. Waves of sound waves mixed with ferocious chi erupted and continuously attacked the horrifying palm attack that was slowly descending from the sky. The bell's attack was like a pebble falling into a lake, causing ripples to form on the surface of the golden palm. However, even if Taoist Shah pushed his strength to its limit, he still could not stop the downward momentum of the palm attack. The entire ancient battlefield shook violently under that golden Buddhist palm attack. Some of the strong tormented souls who were hiding were sent flying out. Quick, block that palm attack. We mustn't let that palm attack. The tormented souls said in fear. Chu Kuangren's palm attack was not only meant to kill Taoist Shah. Once it landed on the ancient battlefield, the entire core area would be affected as well. At that moment, every tormented soul in the ancient battlefield, regardless of whether they had gained sentience or not, as long as they could move, they would all attack the descending golden palm attack. The entire ancient battlefield was unprecedentedly united. Boom, boom, boom. Countless ferocious chi attacks landed on the giant palm. 10,000 meters, 10,000 meters. The giant palm was getting closer and closer to the ground. Taoist Shah let out a roar, and the divine ferocious avatar behind him raised its arms in an attempt to block that palm attack. However, the moment it made contact, the ferocious chi that was condensed from the divine ferocious avatar began to crumble and disintegrate. In less than 2 breaths' time, the 10,000-meter divine ferocious avatar was completely disintegrated and cleansed by the Buddhist light. Taoist Shah suffered a backlash and spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot before he collapsed to the ground. Compared to the descending giant palm, he was as tiny as an ant. Boom. With an earth-shattering explosion, the golden palm landed on the ancient battlefield's core area, and the terrifying shockwaves spread to the inner circle, the outer circle. It even affected the mountains and rivers that were tens of thousands of kilometers away from the ancient battlefield. That energy was like the gods destroying the world. However, the majestic Buddhist light contained a peaceful chi that did not match that terrifying energy. After the giant palm landed, it spread across the entire ancient battlefield, purifying all the tormented souls and ferocious chi in the ancient battlefield. The impact of that palm attack lasted for more than 10 breaths' time. When the energy dissipated, the crowd used their spiritual thoughts to probe the area, and what they saw was an extremely horrifying scene. The ground of the ancient battlefield's core area immediately caved in, and a gigantic 5-fingered palm print appeared. Ravines spread out from the palm print like a giant net that covered the entire core area. After the majestic Buddhist light spread, not a single tormented soul remained. Even the ferocious chi that lingered in the air had dissipated completely. In other words, the entire ancient battlefield was gone. One of the 10 great forbidden areas had been destroyed by Chu Kuangren with a single palm attack. Everyone was dumbfounded and they were so shocked that they could not speak. It seems like they can't handle it. In the sky, Chu Kuangren's gigantic face that covered the sun said indifferently. Upon hearing that, the crowd did not know what to say. You've destroyed the entire ancient battlefield. How are we supposed to handle it? How are we supposed to handle it? How many people in this world can handle it? Chapter 466. The news of Chu Kuangren breaking the heavenly punishment seal, reappearing in the world, killing the sage Taoist Shah with a single palm strike, and destroying the ancient battlefield spread like wildfire across the entire firmament star. Almost everyone knew about it. All those who doubted and slandered him were speechless. No one dared to say anything bad about him anymore. That shocking palm strike had shattered everyone's delusions. Inside the heavenly golden palace, sage ruler Chongqing had naturally seen Chu Kuangren's palm strike too. His eyes were filled with unprecedented fear. It was too terrifying. Chu Kuangren's palm strike was too terrifying. He dared not imagine how powerful his opponent was. Even a sage ruler could not compare to that kind of power. No, even a boundary emperor would not be able to compare to that kind of power. Did that person become an emperor directly? Sage ruler Chongqing thought in an exaggerated manner. I can't believe Chu Kuangren is this powerful. It's not without reason that he's ranked first on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. Xiao Jingchen murmured. Even he had to admit that Chu Kuangren was powerful. Forget Daoist Sha, even he would not be able to withstand that palm strike. At that moment he was suddenly glad that Chu Kuangren did not accept the challenge. Otherwise he did not know what would have happened. Hey, that's too much. Is this palm strike something a sage can unleash? Even the forbidden sky prides of the 9 heavens are no better than that. On a mountain peak, a young man gulped as he looked at the ancient battlefield. That palm strike had shocked him. Beside him was another person. It was a man with a white jade folding fan. He looked at the ancient battlefield with a solemn expression as well. Is that the power of a supreme sage? This person is not to be underestimated. We must report this to our clans as soon as possible, the man said. Beside him the young man nodded. On the other side, the black-robed lady with the metal mask had also seen that shocking palm strike. *CKME, is that something a sage can do? Chu Kuangren. I can't believe there's someone like him in Firmament Star. Sob. A sobbing sound came from the black mist behind the black-robed lady. So you're afraid now. In that case, if you encounter this fellow in the future, you should consciously run far away. The black-robed woman curled her lips. Let's go. It's time for us to make a trip to Acheron Manor. It's time to take back what doesn't belong to them, said the black-robed woman indifferently as streams of Taoist rhymes intertwined in her palm. Above the illusionary mirage, the void in front of Chu Kuangren distorted for a moment before returning to normal. He smiled in satisfaction. This spatial conveyor technique is quite useful. The spatial conveyor technique was a god-tier divine ability that Chu Kuangren had obtained from the Gacha roulette. It allowed him to overlap 2 different spaces and transfer objects from one space to the other. The reason why Chu Kuangren was able to unleash such a terrifying palm attack on the ancient battlefield from a million miles away was because of this divine ability. He used the Tathagata rebirth mantra here and used the space transportation technique to transport the power of this monarch art to the sky above the ancient battlefield. This kind of mystique was really convenient and easy to use. If used well, it would have unimaginable effects. And the power of this Taoist connotation is beyond my imagination. Should I say that it's really divine punishment? Chu Kuangren murmured as he looked at his palm. There were still traces of Taoist rhymes in the center of his palm that had yet to dissipate. This Taoist rhyme far surpassed any Taoist rhymes that Chu Kuangren had encountered before. It was not a difference in power but a difference in essence. This Taoist rhyme seemed to be able to suppress all other Taoist rhymes. Even the emperor suppressing all techniques Taoist rhyme would not be able to suppress this Taoist rhyme because this was the heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. The heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme was the power that Chu Kuangren had mastered after he had fully understood the heavenly punishment seal. It was also his biggest gain in the past few years. This heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme could be infused into all of his attacks, multiplying his combat strength. It was like the might of the heavens, as if he was punishing on behalf of the heavens. Chu Kuangren retracted his aura and looked at the innate ferocious altar not far away. He noticed that the white-robed general had long lost consciousness as if he had fainted. Chu Kuangren asked Lan Yu, "How's he doing recently?" "He's been holding on, but he fainted yesterday after absorbing all the ferocious qi on the altar," Lan Yu answered. "All right, I understand now." Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He activated his eye of revelation and observed the white-robed general. His foundation has been restored. Physique transformation in progress, 98% progress. Just a little more. Not long after, when the eye of revelation showed that the white-robed general's physique transformation had reached 100%, he suddenly opened his eyes. A terrifying ferocious qi gushed out from his body and engulfed a radius of a few hundred kilometers. The surrounding clouds rumbled as they trembled in shock. That surge of energy was not much weaker than Taoist Sha's. No, it might even be stronger than that. With the complete infallible tormented physique and the cultivation base of a sage ruler, the white-robed general can now be considered one of the top existences in Firmament Star. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He too had the infallible tormented physique, but it had yet to reach its complete form. However, that was no longer important to him. The Supreme Sage's body was more outstanding than any other Taoist physique. There was no need for him to purposely pursue other Taoist physiques. I owe you one more time. This life of mine is yours now. The white-robed general walked down the innate ferocious altar and stood before Chu Kuangren. His tone was calm but unusually firm. Chu Kuangren did not say anything. Gaining the white-robed general's loyalty on this trip to the ancient battlefield was definitely worth it. From now on, the Black Heaven sect would have another top-tier sage ruler. Even without Chu Kuangren, not many would dare to provoke them. Come, let's return to the Black Heaven sect first. I'll bring you to meet your descendants. Chu Kuangren said. He kept the elusive mirage into his yin and yang ring. He then grabbed Lan Yu and the white-robed general with one hand and smiled. No matter what I do, don't resist. Although they did not know what Chu Kuangren meant, the two of them had complete trust in him, so they nodded. Then a mysterious spatial energy enveloped the three of them, and the next moment the three of them disappeared on the spot. When they reappeared, they had already traveled 1,000,000 kilometers and arrived outside the astonishing cloud of seas formation. That teleportation ability shocked Lan Yu and the white-robed general. Spatial energy. I didn't expect Brother Chu to have mastered spatial energy as well, the white-robed general said in surprise. I actually know quite a few things. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Naturally, he had used the spatial conveyor technique to teleport the three of them outside the astonishing cloud of seas formation. The reason they did not enter the Black Heaven sect directly was because the astonishing cloud of seas formation had a special ability that could confine space. Back when the Heavenly Golden Palace's Purple Void Sage tried to break the formation, he could not escape using the Shift Talisman. Besides that, Chu Kuangren also realized that using the spatial conveyor technique to transport a human body was much more taxing than transporting pure energy. After all, humans would resist, and the slightest difference in strength would affect the effect of the transportation. If it were not for Lan Yu and the white-robed general's complete trust in Chu Kuangren, it would not have been so easy to transport them to the designated location. Of course, if Chu Kuangren's strength was much higher than the target's, it would be futile no matter how much the target resisted. All in all, Chu Kuangren was more satisfied with the spatial conveyor technique. He felt that there were many more possibilities for this divine ability to be developed. Chapter 467. When Chu Kuangren returned to the Black Heaven sect, Elder Rian and the others welcomed him. Everyone knew that Chu Kuangren had broken the heavenly punishment seal, so they were extremely excited. They were happier than if they were celebrating the new year. Elder Rian, the astonishing cloud of seas formation will be lifted tomorrow. The Black Heaven sect no longer needs to hide from the world. Chu Kuangren smiled. In the past he was sealed away by the heavenly punishment seal. However, now that the seal had been lifted, he was not afraid of anyone. The Black Heaven sect could now walk around Firmament Star openly. He wanted to see who had the guts to go against the Black Heaven sect. Yes. Elder Rian nodded excitedly. Activating the astonishing cloud of seas formation consumed a large amount of resources every day. Now that it had been lifted, they only needed to activate it when necessary, which would save them a lot of resources. Moreover, the Black Heaven sect could now officially roam the world. By the way, where's Shang Qingxue? I've brought someone for her to meet, Chu Kuangren asked. Qingxue? She's not back yet, right? Elder Rian said. The outstanding disciples of the Black Heaven sect had already roamed the world before Chu Kuangren had even unlocked his seal to gain experience in the mortal world. Shang Qingxue was one of them. Then send a message for her to return, Chu Kuangren said. All right. White-robed brother, I'll have to trouble you to wait a little longer. No problem. The white-robed general was not in a hurry. He had been here for so many years, so he could afford to wait a little longer. Elder Rian and the others sized up the white-robed general. They could not help but feel curious about one of the 7 great ghost stories. The white-robed general was a loner, so he did not talk much with Elder Rian and the others. He found a quiet place in the Black Heaven sect and stayed there for the time being. With the lifting of the astonishing cloud of seas formation, the Black Heaven sect reappeared in the world. News of the incident began to spread. Everyone knew that Chu Kuangren's seal had been lifted. That peerless madman had returned. Towards this, countless heaven's favorites lamented and hated the unfairness of the heavens. Now that Chu Kuangren has returned, there's no place for us to shine in this world. Heavenly Tao, you're so unfair. Sigh, it's been 3 years. He's back after 3 years, razing the ancient battlefield to the ground. He's many times more terrifying than he was 3 years ago. A person like him won't fall so easily. Who says his time has passed? Isn't it here again? The whole world was talking about it. The name Chu Kuangren had become the focus of everyone in the world. Just as everyone was shocked by Chu Kuangren's return, a few forces were panicking and terrified. They were Acheron Manor, Ethereal Rapture, Sacred Temple of Death, and other forces that had participated in the siege against Black Heaven sect. The current Chu Kuangren had already struck fear into their hearts. In the past, they had expended a lot of resources to annihilate the Black Heaven sect. Even after 3 years, they still had not recovered from their losses, and their strength was far from what it used to be. Now that they were facing Chu Kuangren, who could blast the ancient battlefield with his palm, they were no match for him at all. What could they use to fight him? Several forces quickly held a meeting to discuss this matter. Inside the Heavenly Golden Palace, the leaders of the top orthodoxies were gathered together. What should we do now? Chu Kuangren is just too powerful now that he's unsealed. We're no match for him at all. If he were to come knocking on our door one day, the few of us sage rulers would probably be slapped to death by him. ***. Since ancient times, no one has been able to break the heavenly punishment seal. How did he do it? It doesn't matter how he did it. The problem is, how are we going to deal with his revenge? I'm sure you all know what happened to Craggy Ocean Tower. Now that he's even more terrifying than before, our fates might be even worse. What should we do to save ourselves? Why don't we just surrender? We can't beat him anyway. Surrender? Are you kidding me? Even if we surrender, do you think Chu Kuangren will just let us go? Stop dreaming. We are already mortal enemies with him. The few orthodoxies sect leaders were arguing endlessly. They did not look like the leaders of orthodoxies at all. However, it was not surprising. Not many people could remain calm in the face of disaster. Even these sage rulers were no exception. Alright, stop arguing. Sage ruler Chongqing stopped the crowd and said, "We're no match for Chu Kuangren, but there are others who are." Brother Chongqing, are you referring to the elders of the Forbidden Area? The Great Bottomless Chasm Dweller asked. That's right. Sage ruler Chongqing nodded solemnly. It won't be easy to get them to help us. They've sealed themselves in the Forbidden Area for so many years. Do you think they'll agree? The Acheron Manor Lord said. In the past, our Heavenly Golden Palace's boundary Emperor Chong Kuang once went to the Nether Abyss Valley and had some dealings with a senior there. We can be considered to be on good terms with them. If we're prepared with sufficient rewards, it's not impossible to hire them, Sage ruler Chongqing said after taking a deep breath. Everyone revealed hopeful expressions when they heard this. If that's the case, the Ethereal Rapture is willing to offer a kilogram of celestial core to get them to help us. The Ethereal Rapture sect leader was the first to speak. The Acheron Manor is willing to offer 10 billion soul stones. Who do you think our elders are? Why would they be interested in soul stones? The Bottomless Chasm is willing to offer 10 treasures of the deep sea. The sect leaders of the various orthodoxies stated the price they were willing to pay. Each of those treasures was enough to cause a bloodbath in the outside world. Everyone, please prepare everything you can and send them here. I'll personally depart for the Nether Abyss Valley tomorrow, Sage ruler Chongqing said. Just when the sect leaders were thinking about how to deal with Chu Kuangren, the Black Heaven sect made an announcement. 3 days later, Chu Kuangren would deal with the Heavenly Golden Palace, the Ethereal Rapture, the Acheron Manor, the Sacred Palace of Death, and the Bottomless Chasm. The entire firmament star was shocked when the announcement was made. Everyone had thought that Chu Kuangren would deal with the orthodoxies that had previously attacked the Black Heaven sect after he broke the seal. However, they did not expect it to happen so soon. Chu Kuangren is giving an announcement to the 5 orthodoxies, telling those cultivators who don't want to die to leave immediately. Tisk Tse, I wonder how the 5 orthodoxies are going to deal with this. Even if it's Chu Kuangren, I'm afraid it'll take him some time to deal with them one by one. Things are going to get interesting in the coming days. 3 years ago, the 6 orthodoxies were supposed to deal with Chu Kuangren easily. Who would have thought that the million-strong allied army would be defeated? 3 years later, the orthodoxies will have to face a great catastrophe. The impact of the battle 3 years ago has lasted until today. It's almost time for it to end. Many great ones in the firmament star were watching the impending battle, and the 5 orthodoxies were even more panicked. They hurriedly prepared the most precious items they could and sent them to the heavenly golden palace. Sage ruler Chongqing had also rushed to the Nether Abyss Valley the next day. All of a sudden an undercurrent was brewing. Everyone was paying close attention to when Chu Kuangren would depart for the 5 orthodoxies. However, the puzzling thing was that Chu Kuangren had been staying in the Black Heaven sect since the beginning. Chapter 468. The Nether Abyss Valley was one of the 10 great forbidden areas of Firmament Star. Among the 10 great forbidden areas, the ancient battlefield had the shortest history and was the least dangerous. The other 9 forbidden areas were much more dangerous than the ancient battlefield, and they all had a long history that was a few times longer than the ancient battlefield. The Nether Abyss Valley was shrouded in an eerie atmosphere all year round. Every cultivator who entered this place would have a strange energy invading their mind. Since ancient times, only a few could walk out of this place alive. At this time, on a small path in the Nether Abyss Valley, Sage ruler Chongqing was carefully moving forward. His surroundings were eerily quiet and not even the sound of insects could be heard. The eerie atmosphere shrouded him. Before he knew it, a thin layer of cold sweat had formed on his forehead. He felt like his mind was in great torment, and eerie illusions flashed before his eyes from time to time. He even saw Chu Kuangren suddenly appear in front of him. The Nether Abyss Valley could evoke the deepest fear in a person's heart, and Chu Kuangren was the person that Sage ruler Chongqing feared the most. If this goes on, I'm going to be tortured by these illusions. The Nether Abyss Valley is indeed a forbidden area. Even a sage ruler like me can't stay here for long. I really don't know how those seniors managed to settle down here. They're just too powerful. Sage ruler Chongqing relied on his sage ruler cultivation and mental fortitude to persevere and move forward. Suddenly he heard the cawing of crows. He had never seen a single living creature in the Nether Abyss Valley, but now he heard the cawing of crows. Sage ruler Chongqing's eyes lit up. Did you find it? He walked towards the source of the cawing. Soon he saw a wooden house from afar. In front of the wooden house, there were a few crows perched on a withered tree branch. I found it. Sage ruler Chongqing was delighted and hurried forward. However, at that moment the crows on the tree branch turned to look at him. Their dark red eyes were filled with wariness as they cawed. The cawing was sharp and piercing as if it could pierce through one's soul. Sage ruler Chongqing could not help but shudder and stop in his tracks. He looked at the crow a few times with some fear. Then he took out a black wooden token and said, I am the current palace lord of the heavenly golden palace, Sage ruler Chongqing. I'm here to see Senior Wuyue. O Blackwood Order. Who are you to Chongguang? The crows on the branches suddenly opened their mouths. Their voices were sharp and it was the voice of a woman. Sacred ruler Chongqing was slightly surprised to see this, but he did not ask further. He answered, Zhongguang is the progenitor of our god palace. Why didn't he come himself? Forefather Chongguang has already passed away. Hearing that, a look of surprise appeared in the eyes of the crows. They then flew into the air and gathered together, turning into a tall and beautiful woman dressed in a black dress. Wu Yu raised her hand and grabbed the black wooden token in Sage ruler Chongqing's hand. Then she said calmly, Dead? No matter what, Zhongguang is a quasi-emperor. Aside from us who are in the Forbidden Land, no one in the outside world can kill him. How did he die? Sage ruler Chongqing told her everything that had happened in the outside world in the past few years. Boundary Emperor Wuyue was very surprised to hear that. A supreme sage has appeared in the firmament star. That's rare. No wonder the heavenly Tao was shaken and such energy waves appeared. Then she fiddled with the wooden token and said, Since he's a supreme sage, his combat strength should be strong enough to rival a quasi-emperor. Although I'm friends with Chongguang, my true form is still in hibernation. There's no need for me to fight a sage with a bright future just for your sake. Sage ruler Chongqing seemed to have expected such a reaction from her. He took out a yin and yang ring and handed it over. It contained the gifts prepared by the orthodoxies. Senior, do you know that in this great era, there are all kinds of opportunities of fortune? Some of them are also very useful to quasi-emperors. Senior, you're in hibernation here, so it's inconvenient for you to travel outside. If you can help us overcome this calamity, the heavenly golden palace is willing to serve you. Sage ruler Chongqing said. Wu took the yin and yang ring and pondered. She looked into the depths of the nether abyss valley. There were many quasi-emperors like her in hibernation. It was not just the nether abyss valley. The other forbidden areas had more or less people like them. However, in the past the Great Tao did not exist and it was difficult for emperors to appear. Therefore, these people could only live in seclusion in the forbidden areas and ignore the affairs of the world. Some of them even chose to hibernate to preserve their combat strength in order to wait for the opportunity to become an emperor. Now that the era of emperors had arrived, those in the forbidden areas would not be able to sit still any longer. It was time for her to make a proper plan. The heavenly golden palace was a top-notch orthodoxy after all. If she could use it, it might be useful in the future. However, was it worth it to make an enemy out of a supreme sage? Boundary Emperor Wuyue weighed the pros and cons. Sage ruler Chongqing gritted his teeth and took out a light blue supreme medicine. Waves of mysterious Taoist rhymes emanated from it. This is an emperor-grade supreme medicine. Boundary Emperor Wuyue's eyes lit up. That's right, this is an emperor-grade supreme medicine. This medicine can extend a boundary emperor's life by more than 10,000 years. Please accept it, Senior Wuyue. Even a boundary emperor had a limited lifespan. The older a boundary emperor was, the weaker their physical strength would be, and the more limited their combat strength would be. Otherwise, there would not be so many boundary emperors who chose to hibernate in the forbidden areas to preserve their strength. An emperor-grade supreme medicine that could extend a boundary emperor's life by more than 10,000 years was definitely a huge temptation to a boundary emperor. Even though Boundary Emperor Wuyue was still a long way from heavenly deterioration stage 5, she still did not want to reject it. Chong Guang and I have a history of discussing Taoism. Since you're so kind, I'll go on your behalf. Boundary Emperor Wuyue said calmly before grabbing the monarch's supreme treasure herb in Sage ruler Chongqing's hand. Thank you, Senior Wuyue. Sage ruler Chongqing was overjoyed. 3 days had passed since the Black Heaven sect announced that they would deal with the 5 orthodoxies of the Heavenly Golden Palace. It was now nighttime, and when the sun rose, it would be time for Chu Kuangren to strike. However, what puzzled everyone was that Chu Kuangren had not left the Black Heaven sect at all in the past 3 days. How was he going to deal with the 5 orthodoxies then? Late at night, the bright moon hung high in the sky. Its moonlight was like water and the stars were dazzling. Black Heaven sect inside the towering Heaven Palace. Chu Kuangren sat with his legs crossed, familiarizing himself with the power within his body. Suddenly, his eyes opened, and his gaze traveled hundreds of kilometers to the Black Heaven sect's mountain entrance. A lady in a black dress slowly walked towards him. There was not a single trace of aura on this lady, as if she had blended in with the night. She walked into the Black Heaven sect as if there was no one around. Aside from Chu Kuangren, no one else could see her. You sure have guts to come uninvited, you thief. Chu Kuangren's voice rang in Boundary Emperor Wuyue's ears. The next moment he stepped on the moonlight and slowly walked towards her. Upon seeing Chu Kuangren before her, Boundary Emperor Wuyue's eyes revealed a hint of awe. Everyone says that Black Heaven sect leader Chu has an otherworldly appearance. Now that I've seen you in person, I finally know that the rumors are true. Chapter 469. You may be telling the truth, but that doesn't cover up the fact that you've infiltrated the Black Heaven sect. Tell me, why are you here? As he spoke, Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation. Information about Boundary Emperor Wuyue appeared before his eyes. Wuyue, a blood-eyed crow Boundary Emperor, possesses the mystique of the blood-eyed crow Boundary Emperor technique. Current state. Spiritual thought form. The information that flashed before his eyes caught Chu Kuangren's attention. He could not help but smirk. Sure enough, there were more Boundary Emperors in this world than Hai Yu and Chongguang. After all, even if no one had become an emperor in the past 150,000 years, there should have been a certain number of Boundary Emperors. Not to mention the Primordial Era and the Primordial Era. Sect Leader Chu, you're already a supreme sage at such a young age. Your talent is unparalleled throughout history, and you've managed such a large orthodoxy so well. I'm impressed. Boundary Emperor Wuyue wanted to get closer to Chu Kuangren. If possible, she would rather resolve Sage ruler Chongqing's request peacefully. At that moment Chu Kuangren raised his hand, and a pen and paper appeared in front of him. Boundary Emperor Wuyue was puzzled and confused. Here's a pen and paper. If you're here to praise me, write down your compliments and leave. I'll read them when I have the time in the future, Chu Kuangren said calmly. The corners of Quasi-Emperor Wuyue's mouth twitched when she heard this. She was wasting her breath. Sect Leader Chu, you must be joking. My name is Wuyue, and I'm here today to be a lobbyist for the Heavenly Golden Palace. Alright, you may leave now. Chu Kuangren raised his hand to interrupt Boundary Emperor Wuyue. You? Boundary Emperor Wuyue's expression darkened. Sect Leader Chu, isn't it rude of you to chase me away again and again? This is my territory. It's rude of you to come here without an invitation. The Heavenly Golden Palace and the other orthodoxies are sworn enemies of my Black Heaven sect, yet you're trying to persuade them. That's disrespectful, disrespectful, and disrespectful. I'm already being very polite by merely asking you to leave, Chu Kuangren said. Quasi-Emperor Wuyue was rendered speechless. After a while she took a deep breath. Looks like Sect Leader Chu's eloquence is not inferior to your cultivation. She took a step forward, and a boundless and terrifying aura erupted from her initially lifeless body, crushing towards Chu Kuangren. Then let me put it this way. I, Wuyue, will protect the Heavenly Golden Palace and the other orthodoxies. Is that clear enough? Boundary Emperor Wuyue said in a cold voice. Cut the crap. Can't you just be more direct? Chu Kuangren said calmly as a surge of sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme emanated from his body, fighting against Boundary Emperor Wuyue's domineering aura. Then let me be clear. I will destroy the Heavenly Golden Palace and the other orthodoxies. No one can save them. Both of their auras were clashing against each other, but not a single trace of their auras leaked out. Other than the void around them that seemed to be slightly distorted, the rest of the Black Heaven sect was not affected at all. Some of the disciples were still sleeping soundly, unaware that two powerful figures were confronting each other not far away from them. Under the starry sky, Chu Kuangren and Boundary Emperor Wuyue's auras circulated as they faced each other from afar, neither giving in to the other. One was a newly ascended supreme sage, a peerless sky pride. The other was a Boundary Emperor's clone that had lived for countless years. Both of them were rare top-notch cultivators in the current era. You want to protect those orthodoxies? Do you think you're qualified? The descendant self-sword at Chu Kuangren's waist vibrated, and the sword-based Taoist rhyme suddenly surged. In an instant, it completely suppressed Boundary Emperor Wuyue's aura. Her opponent was just a spiritual thought clone. Even if she could unleash the combat strength of a sage ruler, it was still not enough against the current Chu Kuangren. She did not even know if she could withstand a single sword attack from him. At that moment, the darkness of the night was broken by the first rays of dawn. The clouds rumbled as the sun rose. The sky was bright. When Chu Kuangren saw that, he simply said, "It's time." Chu Kuangren, you win, but I've said that I will protect those orthodoxies. If you dare to come, then fight me, Boundary Emperor Wuyue said. She knew that today's negotiation had failed, and her spiritual thought clone was no match for her opponent. Hence she wanted to leave. Oh, you think you can leave just like that? You must be dreaming. If I want to leave, no one in this world can stop me. As soon as Boundary Emperor Wuyue said that, her spiritual thought clone turned into hundreds of crows and flew in all directions. Each crow was a strand of her spiritual sense. As long as one of them didn't die, her spiritual sense incarnation wouldn't disappear. If I want to stay, no one can leave, Chu Kuangren said. He raised his palm, and an invisible wave of mind power instantly spread in all directions, enveloping the entire area. All the crows were trapped in mid-air by his mind power. A hint of panic appeared in the crow's eyes. What have you done? Let your real body have a taste of my power, Chu Kuangren said as he activated his mind power. The hundreds of crows all turned into black smoke and disappeared. After becoming a sage, Chu Kuangren's soul had been transformed by the purple haze, which greatly increased his growth potential and soul energy. His spiritual thoughts, which were already far beyond a sage ruler's, had reached an unimaginable level. Now he could easily kill most sage rulers with just his spiritual thoughts alone. If he were to use his runic techniques, even a 7-step sage ruler would not be able to last more than a few rounds. Killing a few crows was just a matter of reaching out and grabbing them. Inside the Nether Abyss Valley, a grunt was heard in the wooden hut. Chu Kuangren, if that's the case, I shall fight you with my real body. Let's see how you can withstand the power of a boundary emperor. Firmament star outside the Black Heaven sect. Surges of spiritual thoughts surged and spied on the Black Heaven sect. Today, it was time for Chu Kuangren to deal with the 5 orthodoxies. When everyone's spiritual thoughts arrived at the Black Heaven sect, they saw Chu Kuangren, who had just destroyed Boundary Emperor Wue's clone, standing on a mountain peak. As he stood on the mountain peak, the morning sun shone on him as if he was draped in a golden robe, making him look even more sacred. At that moment, a white ray of light swept past. It was Lan Yu. In her hands there were 5 wooden tablets. The crowd did not understand. Did he not say that he was going to destroy the 5 orthodoxies? What was he up to now? Master, the items are here. Lan Yu placed the 5 wooden tokens in front of Chu Kuangren. Come pick one. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Lan Yu casually picked up a wooden token with a few red words written on it. Acheron Manor. Then let's destroy Acheron Manor first. Chu Kuangren said nonchalantly. However, the great ones who heard Chu Kuangren's words felt like they were dreaming when they saw that. The fate of a few top-notch orthodoxies was tied to a few small wooden tokens. Whichever one they picked would be destroyed. Was there anything more ridiculous than this in this world? At that moment, Chu Kuangren raised his hand and gathered the spiritual energy of the heavens and earth. A 10,000-meter tall ancient Buddha appeared in the air, its Buddhist light surging like waves. It was the Emperor technique, Tathagata Rebirth Mantra. The Tathagata avatar raised its hand and unleashed a palm attack. This palm attack was exactly the same as the one that destroyed the ancient battlefield. Chapter 470. The sea of clouds rumbled as the sun rose. Today's weather was perfect for killing and annihilating an entire sect. Chu Kuangren stood on top of a mountain peak as the boundless Buddhist light on his body surged and turned into an ancient Buddha that shook the heavens and earth. His spiritual thoughts surged and instantly covered the entire firmament star. Soon he locked onto the location of Acheron Manor. The ancient Buddha slowly unleashed a palm attack. This palm strike directly struck into the void and disappeared. While everyone was still in shock, they suddenly realized that a huge surge of energy had appeared in the sky above Acheron Manor 1,000,000 kilometers away. That was the energy of the Tathagata Rebirth Mantra. Everyone surged their spiritual thoughts and realized that an extremely powerful Buddhist light had appeared in the sky above Acheron Manor. A giant golden palm descended from the sky. F***CKME. Isn't that Chu Kuangren's technique? Isn't he in the Black Heaven sect? Oh my god, he sent that palm attack to Acheron Manor from 1,000,000 kilometers away. How did he do it? Everyone was horrified. It was terrifying. It was truly terrifying. Any orthodoxy would be afraid of such an ability. Imagine if one was sitting at home while a palm came from the sky. If one did not even know where the other party was, how could one fight? All the sages in Acheron Manor flew out and looked at the giant golden palm descending from the sky in fear. Activate the formation. The Acheron Manor Lord roared. Lines of runes intertwined above Acheron Manor and turned into a black chi barrier that covered Acheron Manor like a giant bowl. With a loud boom, the giant palm collided with the chi barrier. The ground within a 10,000-kilometer radius shook violently. Huge cracks spread and crisscrossed the ground. Many disciples in Acheron Manor were shocked by the terrifying impact and vomited blood on the spot as they looked at the giant palm in the sky in fear. It was a power that could destroy the world. Crack, crack. At that moment, countless cracks appeared on the chi barrier that protected Acheron Manor. The Acheron Manor Lord and the others were shocked. We can't hold it anymore. So fast. With a loud explosion, the chi barrier exploded. The Acheron Manor Lord and the other sages could not just sit and wait. They channeled their strongest powers and unleashed the strongest emperor technique of Acheron Manor. The Yellow Spring's Eye. Numerous gigantic demonic eyes appeared in the void of space. Rays of demonic light shot out and hit the giant palm in the sky. However, this only slightly hindered the momentum of the giant palm. It was impossible for it to collapse. Chu Kuangren. We won't let you off even if we become ghosts. Acheron Manor Lord bellowed in despair. But it was useless. In the end, the golden palm still landed on Acheron Manor. Countless palaces and buildings were instantly destroyed, and everything within 100 miles was razed to the ground. The dust that was kicked up spread out like waves, covering tens of thousands of miles and causing a huge impact on the surrounding terrain and environment. The mountains cracked and the rivers changed their course. The sages in the Akron Manor exploded one by one. Countless disciples had no chance of surviving this attack. With a single palm strike, Yellow Springs Manor was destroyed. Everyone was shocked, speechless. Some of them had seen the scene of Chu Kuangren destroying the ancient battlefield with a single palm attack, but they could not help but be shocked when they saw it again. Sometimes they even wondered if he had become an emperor. How could a sage have such power? In the Black Heaven sect, the Buddhist light on Chu Kuangren's body slowly dissipated. He was surrounded by beauties, birds and flowers, but a million miles away his single palm attack had turned the world into an apocalyptic scene. The more that happened, the more terrified everyone felt. "Come on you. Flip another one," Chu Kuangren said. Hearing his words, Lan Yu's fingers moved back and forth between the remaining wooden tablets, as if debating which one to choose. Many great ones gulped. One must know that her choice could very well mean the end of an orthodoxy. That pair of hands held the life and death of countless people in their hands. This one. Lan Yu flipped the next wooden tablet. Oh, the sacred palace of death. It'll be him then. Meanwhile, in the sacred palace of death, the sacred palace of death rushed out of the palace and said fearfully, "Quick, activate the protective formation and hide all disciples in the stone coffins." A gray barrier enveloped the entire sacred palace. Then a giant mountain rose from the ground. Instead of calling it a mountain, it was more accurate to call it a giant stone coffin. The stone coffin was engraved with countless runes. Countless disciples entered the stone coffin in confusion, not knowing what was going on. However, they all knew that it was something big. The stone coffin would only be activated when the sacred palace was on the brink of death. "Look, what's that?" Suddenly, a disciple exclaimed in fear. The sky above the sacred palace distorted, and a giant fist with a diameter of hundreds of feet, burning with black flames, descended from the sky. The surging energy shook the heavens and earth. "Quick, enter the stone coffin," the sacred palace of death yelled. He did the same and rushed into the stone coffin. The black fist landed on the sacred palace of death's barrier and shattered it in the blink of an eye. Then it landed on the giant stone coffin. Waves of life and death Taoist rhymes erupted from the stone coffin. However, the power of the fist was too terrifying. The Taoist rhymes on the stone coffin were continuously shattered, and the impact penetrated the stone coffin and affected the people inside. One by one, the sacred palace disciples exploded into mist, and the sages' bodies began to crack as they screamed in pain. With a loud bang, the stone coffin shattered. The life and death Taoist rhymes and the energy contained in the fist collided, forming a storm that engulfed everyone. The sacred palace of death destroyed. On the mountain peak of the Black Heaven sect. Lan Yu next. It's the ethereal rapture. All right. Inside the ethereal rapture, the sect leader rushed out and yelled, "All disciples run. Run as far as you can." "Sect leader, what's happening?" a disciple asked in fear. "Get out of here." The ethereal rapture sect leader continued to yell in despair. However, it was too late. A surge of finger strength suddenly descended from the sky. That finger strength contained a power that could awaken one's Taoist core. Everyone at the scene was targeted by the finger strength and their expressions froze. Then the finger strength exploded and engulfed the entire ethereal rapture. The ethereal rapture. Destroyed. Next, the bottomless chasm. Lan Yu flipped over another wooden tablet. The bottomless chasm is located deep in the ocean. "Looks like I'll have to put in more effort," Chu Kuangren muttered. The descendant's self-sword at his waist was unsheathed, and a terrifying purple sword ray covered the sky before disappearing into the void. The next moment, the sword ray traveled millions of miles in an instant and arrived at the surface of the ocean. The entire ocean trembled violently at that moment. Under the majestic and boundless sword pressure, the ocean split to the left and right. A single sword attack splitting the ocean. The sword ray charged straight into the ocean and arrived at a group of magnificent palaces. Here, the bottomless chasm dweller and the others were already waiting. They used all kinds of techniques in an attempt to disintegrate the sword ray. However, when the sword ray exploded, it turned into millions of fine sword chi that swept across the entire bottomless chasm like a sword chi storm. The bottomless chasm, which had existed for hundreds of thousands of years, was instantly shattered by such terrifying power. In the end, only a few survived the bottomless chasm. Those magnificent palaces were reduced to dust at the bottom of the ocean. A palm attack, a fist attack, a finger attack, and a sword attack. 4 top-notch orthodoxies were destroyed. All the great ones who witnessed the entire process were so shocked that they were speechless. They felt that it was ridiculous. Chapter 471. Chu Kuangren had activated the 4 great emperor techniques and destroyed 4 top-notch orthodoxies. His invincible might shocked all the great ones in the firmament star. The continuous eruptions of energy also attracted the attention of the ancient beings in the ancient forbidden areas. These ancient beings released their spiritual thoughts and began to probe the outside world. Soon they found out about Chu Kuangren's existence. At that moment, even these ancient beings could not help but be amazed. However, Chu Kuangren did not know about this. Even if he did, he would not care too much. At that moment, his spiritual thoughts were patrolling the ruins of the 4 top-notch orthodoxies, moving valuable items into the Black Heaven Sect's treasury using the spatial conveyor skill. This ability was extremely convenient. Wherever his spiritual thoughts went, the spatial conveyor skill would be activated. In other words, other than some special places, Chu Kuangren could land his attacks on a specific place and move the items to a specific location if he wanted to. As expected of a god-tier ability, Chu Kuangren was amazed. Suddenly he noticed something and let out a soft gasp. When his spiritual thoughts scanned the Acheron Manor, he found a black stone tablet in the broken sarcophagus. There was a strange Taoist rhyme flowing on it, and it contained a powerful emperor's aura. His spatial conveyor skill did not work on the stone tablet. Ugh, I was just praising this ability and now it's giving me a hard time. Chu Kuangren laughed and shook his head. It was not that the spatial conveyor skill was not strong enough, but Chu Kuangren's cultivation level was not strong enough to move this strange stone tablet. He secretly made a mental note of this stone tablet. Alright, there's only 1 orthodoxy left. Chu Kuangren smiled as he looked at the last wooden tablet in Lan Yu's hand. With a lift of his hand, tens of thousands of runic swords formed, each of which contained a terrifying sage aura. These runic swords were enough to wipe out the Acheron Manor and the other 3 top-notch orthodoxies once again. The Heavenly Golden Palace has a delivery for you. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Tens of thousands of rune swords flew out and pierced through the void. They came to the sky above the Heavenly Golden Palace and crashed down. The violent runic aura shrouded the heavens and earth. Sage ruler Chongqing and the hidden forefathers of the Heavenly Golden Palace all appeared. Defend with everything you've got. Sage ruler Chongqing bellowed. A huge defensive array formation enveloped the divine palace. When the rune swords landed on it, a series of loud rumbling sounds could be heard. Xiao Jingchen, who was standing on a mountain peak, had a rare look of fear in his eyes when he saw the rune swords falling like raindrops. He dared not imagine. What if Chu Kuangren had accepted his challenge back then? He was afraid that he would be smashed to death like Taoist Sha. How could there be such a terrifying sky pride in the firmament star? Even those forbidden geniuses of the 9 heavens might not be able to compare to him. Boom, boom, boom. The Heavenly Golden Palace's defense formation did not last for more than a few breaths before it shattered. Rune swords rained down from the sky. Sage ruler Chongqing and the others roared as they desperately tried to defend themselves. However, even with a few sage rulers attacking at the same time, they were still unable to fend off the runic swords. Countless sword chi landed on the Heavenly Golden Palace, and the sounds of explosions rang out like firecrackers. Smoke and dust flew everywhere as the mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. The disciples of the Divine Palace are innocent. Chu Kuangren, your actions are no different from those of the devil. You shall die a horrible death. Some of the Divine Palace elders roared into the sky. However, they were soon engulfed by the runic swords and there was no more sound. Suddenly, something was flying towards them from afar. It was a blood-eyed crow that emanated a terrifying aura. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived above the Heavenly Golden Palace. The crow screeched and flapped its wings. Boundless spiritual energy surged and fused with a terrifying Taoist rhyme to form an endless storm. In the blink of an eye, the rune swords that filled the sky shattered one by one. "It's Senior Wuyue!" Sage ruler Chongqing exclaimed in surprise. Everyone's eyes lit up with hope when they saw Wuyue. Meanwhile, in the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren smirked and placed his hand on the hilt of the Descendant Self-Sword at his waist. "An interesting person has appeared. I'll be back soon." Chu Kuangren smiled and took a step forward. The void distorted and he disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already above the heavenly golden palace. He looked at Boundary Emperor Wu and said, "I've told you that no one can protect the heavenly golden palace. If you insist on protecting it, you'll be digging your own grave. You're a supreme sage, so your combat strength is indeed extraordinary. However, you've just used emperor techniques to destroy 4 orthodoxies. How much spiritual power do you have left in your body? How many of my attacks can you withstand?" Boundary Emperor Wu's huge body quickly shrunk and transformed back into a graceful beauty. She stared coldly at Chu Kuangren. She had witnessed the terrifying power that Chu Kuangren used to destroy 4 orthodoxies. She had to admit that it was definitely at the level of a boundary emperor. He was definitely one of the top boundary emperors. However, she did not believe that Chu Kuangren still had enough spiritual power to replenish his spiritual power. Even with the help of an emperor-grade supreme elixir, it would take some time for him to replenish his spiritual power. 3 attacks. Chu Kuangren said. "You can only take 3 attacks from me. At least you know your limits." Boundary Emperor Wu chuckled. "No, I mean, I'll kill you in 3 attacks. You... How arrogant." Boundary Emperor Wu snorted coldly as a surge of Boundary Emperor aura erupted from her body. It was much stronger than Boundary Emperor Chongquang and Boundary Emperor Haiyu. Not far away, Xiao Jingchen murmured. With such a domineering aura, Boundary Emperor Wu could barely be considered a mid-tier boundary emperor. Due to the era of Dharma's end, the boundary emperors had a hard time becoming emperors. However, that did not mean that a boundary emperor's strength was unchanging. Over the years, the boundary emperors would always find ways to increase their strength. Some boundary emperors' destructive power was not inferior to an emperor's. It was only due to the suppression of Taoist rhymes that they were weaker than an emperor's. Xiao Jingchen looked at Chu Kuangren, who was standing proudly in the sky, with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. How would Chu Kuangren deal with Boundary Emperor Wu? Would the spiritual power in his body be enough to deal with Boundary Emperor Wu? In the sky, Boundary Emperor Wu seemed to have been provoked by Chu Kuangren. She made the first move, and with a wave of her hand, a black ray of light shot out like lightning. That black ray of light contained a powerful Taoist rhyme and spiritual power. Its terrifying strength was many times stronger than a sage ruler's. The Descendant Self-Sword at Chu Kuangren's waist was unsheathed, and a purple sword ray poured out from its blade. It was the Emperor technique, the Heaven-Slaying Sword Drawing technique. That sword attack was the purest form of attack. Chu Kuangren's sword attack collided with that black ray of light. 2 surges of energy collided and the Taoist rhymes intertwined. Everyone around them was sent flying by the impact and many buildings were destroyed. Even a sage ruler could not help but be pushed back a few hundred meters. That was only the aftermath of the attack. Chu Kuangren and Boundary Emperor Wu were the ones who bore the brunt of the impact. "I can't believe he still has such a powerful spiritual power." Boundary Emperor Wu was pushed back a few meters by the impact. Although she had a strong Boundary Emperor body, she could not help but bleed from the corner of her mouth. However, when she saw Chu Kuangren, her eyes could not help but narrow. Chu Kuangren was unscathed by that impact. His body was even more terrifying than hers. Chapter 472. A sage's body was already far stronger than an ordinary cultivator's. Moreover, Chu Kuangren had the body of a supreme sage. How terrifying was his physical body! Even a strange beast like Boundary Emperor Wu could not compare. It was not an exaggeration to say that even if Chu Kuangren stood still, a sage ruler would not be able to hurt him. Moreover, he had the immortal body. An indestructible supreme sage's body coupled with the immortal body. This combination was almost insane. Chu Kuangren even dared to say that no one below the emperor realm could kill him. Chu Kuangren relied on his powerful body to withstand the collision of the two energies and then flew towards Boundary Emperor Wue. Come, take my second sword attack. Chu Kuangren held the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand and a purple sword ray flashed. Boundary Emperor Wue felt threatened by that sword ray. She could not take this attack head-on. Boundary Emperor Wue instantly made a decision. Her eyes flashed with a scarlet light. This was the special ability of the Blood-Eyed Crow, the Blood Crow's delusion. It was a divine ability that could confuse one's mind. Even beings of the same cultivation level as Quasi-Emperor Wue would be affected. Her strength was not considered top-notch among Quasi-Emperors, but with this divine ability, there were not many in the Nether Abyss Valley who were willing to provoke her. A scarlet light shot out from Boundary Emperor Wue's eyes and shone on Chu Kuangren. From Boundary Emperor Wue's perspective, Chu Kuangren's mind would be affected and he would be frozen on the spot, unable to move. At that time she would be able to end him. However, all she saw was Chu Kuangren's sword slashing out without hesitation. The sword ray poured down and enveloped her completely. He was not affected by the Blood Crow's delusion at all. How could this be? Boundary Emperor Wue's mind raced, but she did not have the time to think because the dazzling purple sword ray was already coming towards her. That one mistake and the sword ray was already upon her. With a loud slash, Boundary Emperor Wue took the full brunt of the sword ray. A large amount of blood splattered from her body, and her entire body was sent flying for thousands of meters before she crashed into a mountain in the distance. A ferocious sword wound extended from Boundary Emperor Wue's left shoulder to her waist. It was so deep that her bones could be seen and it almost cut her in half. Oh, I can't believe you're still alive. That black dress you're wearing must be pretty too. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He had clearly felt a strong resistance just now which had resisted part of the power of his sword light. Clearly, the black dress she was wearing was a defensive quasi-emperor weapon. Otherwise, that sword strike would have sliced her in half. Cough, cough. Boundary Emperor Wue coughed out 2 mouthfuls of blood and looked extremely pathetic. She glared at Chu Kuangren with hatred in her eyes. B*****. A powerful Taoist rhyme burst forth from her body as a large amount of spiritual energy surged out, causing the entire Xiantian Divine Palace to shake. I'll kill you. I've just said that I'll kill you in 3 moves. You still remember that, don't you? Chu Kuangren suddenly chuckled. Immediately after, a large amount of spiritual qi suddenly surged above Boundary Emperor Wue. Countless mysterious runes intertwined, turning into an azure rune. A beam of light descended from the rune and enveloped Boundary Emperor Wue. An astonishing pressure enveloped her, causing her entire body to tremble. An instinctive feeling of fear arose in her heart. What kind of rune is this? It's just a lightning talisman, but it's Emperor grade. Chu Kuangren said calmly. The spiritual qi within a 10,000-kilometer radius was sucked dry and channeled into the Emperor-grade lightning talisman. Arcs of electricity danced on the rune's rune, emanating an endless amount of pressure. That pressure was like heavenly might. It was not just an Emperor-grade lightning talisman, but an Emperor-grade lightning talisman that Chu Kuangren had imbued with heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. At that moment, a familiar aura emanated from the lightning talisman. This aura, heavenly tribulation. How is this possible? This rune contains the aura of heavenly tribulation. I've never heard of such a rune before. Everyone was terrified. Chu Kuangren could activate the power of heavenly tribulations with runes. Impossible. How can anyone in this world control heavenly tribulations? That's the authority of the heavenly Tao. This is impossible. Quasi-Emperor Wue's face drained of all color and turned deathly pale. This isn't a heavenly tribulation but heavenly punishment. And I shall mete out punishment on behalf of the heavens. Chu Kuangren stood in the void with a cold expression on his handsome face. It was as if he was the embodiment of the heavenly Tao itself. A roar came from within the lightning talisman, and a ferocious lightning dragon emerged from it. It stared at Boundary Emperor Wue with a pair of emotionless eyes. At that moment, Boundary Emperor Wue was trembling helplessly. Anyone who saw her would think that she was a weak and pitiful girl instead of the almighty Boundary Emperor. Brother, please stop. At that moment an old voice came from the void. However, Chu Kuangren ignored it and snapped his fingers. The terrifying lightning dragon descended with the heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. Accompanied by a shrill scream, Boundary Emperor Wu's body disintegrated and turned into ashes within the lightning. When the lightning dissipated, Boundary Emperor Wu had completely disappeared. Not even a single piece of her was left. I said I'll kill you within 3 moves. Within 3 moves I'll scatter your ashes, Chu Kuangren said calmly before he looked up into the sky. Just now someone had asked him to stop. Brother, you've crossed the line. The old voice spoke again, this time with a hint of anger. Crossed the line? Where are you? Chu Kuangren chuckled and asked. What does that have to do with you? Tell me where you are so I can go and kill you. The moment he said kill you, thunder and lightning erupted. It was as if the heavens were enraged. Was this a joke? Chu Kuangren and the heavenly golden palace were irreconcilable enemies. Boundary Emperor Wu wanted to stop him and kill him. Was it too much to kill her? If the owner of the old voice had not used some method to isolate spiritual thoughts from prying eyes, Chu Kuangren would have been standing right in front of him. The old voice fell silent for a moment before it said, Brother, you're too vicious. I hope you know what to do next. After that, the old voice disappeared. Too vicious? What a joke. Which strong cultivator in this world did not rise by stepping on the bones of others? As long as I have a clear conscience, I don't care if everyone in this world sees me as an evil spirit or an Ashura. Chu Kuangren let out a long roar. Then he gently raised his hand and looked at the remaining elders and disciples of the heavenly golden palace. Tens of thousands of runic swords once again formed. Chu Kuangren, I'm willing to accept my death. Please spare, sage ruler Chongqing said loudly. However, before he could finish his sentence, Chu Kuangren had already waved his hand. Fall. Wherever the runic sword chi passed, sword chi filled the sky. From the sage ruler elders to the sect leader and servants, not a single one of them survived. It was the annihilation of an entire sect. Not a single one of them would be spared. After that, Chu Kuangren turned around and left. Acheron Manor, sacred palace of death, ethereal rapture, bottomless chasm, heavenly golden palace. 5 top-notch orthodoxies were annihilated overnight. All the cultivators who witnessed this scene fell silent. On this day they witnessed the annihilation of the orthodoxies and the birth of a supreme legend. To them, Chu Kuangren was no longer just the #1 Sky Pride in the world. They could even remove the title of Sky Pride from his title. #1 in the world. Chapter 473. After wiping out 5 orthodoxies in a row, Chu Kuangren had unleashed his unparalleled combat strength, shocking the entire firmament star. In an instant, the title of the world's strongest cultivator was crowned on his head. Not just the world's strongest Sky Pride, but the world's strongest cultivator. Chu Kuangren was in the limelight. Meanwhile, above the ruins of Acheron Manor, a black-robed figure suddenly arrived. It was a graceful lady in a black robe with a metal mask on her face. Behind the lady was a cloud of black mist that seemed to be alive as it let out a sound from time to time. Destroying Acheron Manor with a single palm. Given it, this Chu Kuangren is really a monster, the black-robed lady mumbled as she looked at the scene. She carefully searched the ruins for a while. *CK, isn't this Acheron Manor too poor? I can't even find anything good here. How can this be considered a top-notch orthodoxy? Or was it all destroyed with a single palm? Forget it, let's find that thing first. The black-robed lady continued to search the ruins for a while. Relying on her unique senses, she came before the broken sarcophagus and found the strange pitch-black stone tablet. Her eyes suddenly lit up. Finally found it. The black-robed lady looked at the stone tablet with excitement in her eyes. After so many years, it's finally returned to its rightful owner. Just as she was about to take the stone tablet away, "These are my spoils of war." An indifferent voice rang out. Out of nowhere, a figure had appeared on the stone tablet. That person stood on top of the stone tablet. He was dressed in white and had black hair. The black-robed lady's eyes narrowed when she saw him, and she immediately retreated in a defensive stance. Chu Kuangren, this was not good. It was impossible for her to take anything from Chu Kuangren's hands. Roar. An uneasy roar came from the black mist behind the black-robed lady. The black mist expanded by a few times and a sharp claw reached out. "You dog, behave yourself," the black-robed lady said softly. "Ugh." The being in the black mist let out an aggrieved cry. "Oh, a demonic being." Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and scanned through the lady and the black mist, analyzing their information. Infernal demonic wolf, sage ruler. Zhan Hongying, the princess of the Azura clan, a sage. Zhan Hongying ranked second on the hidden dragon list. "Tell me everything you know about this stone tablet." Chu Kuangren stood on top of the stone tablet and asked. "If I tell you, can you give me the steel?" Zhan Hongying said. "Sure, as long as you can beat me." Zhan Hongying's face lit up when she heard the first two words, but the latter part completely shattered her delusion. Defeat Chu Kuangren? What a joke. As long as she wasn't stupid, she knew that she was no match for the other party. If the other party's palm came over, she would probably lose half her life. Fellow Taoist Chu, this stone tablet isn't just important to me. It's important to all living beings in the world because it's related to the devil realm. Oh, tell me about it. In ancient times, the underworld demonic realm had once invaded the firmament star. Later on, an emperor appeared out of nowhere and chased all the demonic creatures back to the demonic realm. He then refined 99 Acheron tablets with an unparalleled technique and sealed the passageway between the demonic realm and the firmament star. Chu Kuangren's expression did not change as he listened to Zhan Hongying. It was hard to tell if he believed her or not. "You're saying that this stone tablet is the Acheron tablet?" "That's right. The 99 Acheron tablets form the Great Acheron Formation that seals the demonic realm's passageway. This is the most important stone tablet, the Acheron Formation's Eye. It's also an item that the Ashura tribe has guarded for generations. However, many years ago the Great Acheron Formation experienced a violent disturbance, and someone took the opportunity to take this stone tablet away. It wasn't until recently that the Acheron Manor appeared. Through the Acheron Formation's Eye, we were able to locate the stone tablet. Now, can you please return it to me, Brother Chu?" Zhan Hongying asked. Chu Kuangren pondered for a moment before he said, "It's not that I can't return this stone tablet to you, but you can come back to me when I'm done studying it." He did not completely believe her words. This Acheron tablet contained an extremely strong emperor's aura, and the runes on it were unique as if they contained the Tao of talismans and various emperors' insights. This was an extremely valuable treasure. It was impossible for him to give up on such a treasure with just a few words from Zhan Hongying. He would have to be out of his mind to do something so stupid. In recent years, the demonic realm has been restless and ready to break the seal at any time. If we don't retrieve the Acheron tablet soon, the demonic realm's army will descend upon us again in 10 years at most. 10 years? It won't take that long. Chu Kuangren said. 10 years to comprehend a single stone tablet? He felt that 10 days was too long. Zhan Hongying did not know what to say since she could not convince Chu Kuangren otherwise. "If you have nothing else to say, then we'll meet again." Chu Kuangren kept the stone tablet into his yin and yang ring. Then his figure disappeared from the spot. Woo woo, the black mist behind Zhan Hongying let out two cries. "Idiot, how would I know what to do? The Acheron tablet has fallen into that guy's hands. Unless he doesn't want it anymore, who can take it back from him?" Zhan Hongying said in frustration. "Ah, I'm so angry." Zhan Hongying scratched her head. "I should find someone to fight and vent my anger. I wonder if Shao Jingchen is still alive in the Heavenly Golden Palace. If I can't find him, I'll have to look for Wang Tianting." Black Heaven Sect. When Chu Kuangren returned to the Black Heaven Sect, he planned to comprehend the strange stone tablet. However, Elder Rian and the white-robed general suddenly came to find him. What happened? Chu Kuangren frowned when he saw the two's serious expressions. "Sect leader, I think something happened to Shang Qingxue." "Something happened?" "Yes, we've been trying to contact her for the past few days, but there hasn't been any response," Elder Rian said. "I want to go out and look for her." The white-robed general said. "Let me take a look." Chu Kuangren then spread his spiritual thoughts with the Black Heaven Sect as the center, covering the entire firmament star. Apart from a few hidden places, images of other places flashed across his mind like a slideshow. However, he could not find any trace of Shang Qingxue. There were two explanations for that. First, Shang Qingxue was no longer on firmament star. Of course, the possibility of that was very low. Chu Kuangren was more inclined to the second explanation, which was that Shang Qingxue had either entered a spatial secret realm or was hidden by someone else. Where was the last time you contacted Shang Qingxue? Chu Kuangren asked. It was in the Nebula Prefecture. That's the territory of Parch Prime Palace. Elder Rian said. Oh, Parch Prime Palace. That name sounds familiar. Chu Kuangren suddenly took out a letter and said, Isn't Lu Yiqing from Parch Prime Palace the one who infiltrated the Black Heaven sect? I wanted to ask for a ransom from them, but I didn't expect to be delayed by so many things. Looks like it's time for me to pay them a visit. Chu Kuangren murmured. Chapter 474. Nebula Prefecture, Parch Prime Palace. Inside a great hall. An old man was yelling at a young man. You be **starred, do you know what you're doing? How dare you capture someone from the Black Heaven sect? Do you have a death wish? Do you want Parch Prime Palace to suffer the same fate as Ethereal Rapture and Acheron Manor? Do you want Chu Kuangren to give us a slap too? The old man was so angry that his face turned red and his chest heaved. He was filled with hatred. Seeing how the young man in front of him was behaving like a yes man, the old man became even angrier and kicked him to the ground. Why didn't your father shoot you to the wall back then? Father, please calm down. Xianer didn't do it on purpose. Who knew so many things would happen in just 2 short months? A middle-aged man walked up and said. Another lady walked up and helped the young man up. That's right. If I knew Chu Kuangren could break the heavenly punishment seal and was so powerful, I wouldn't have captured her. The young man Zhang Xian said. The old man almost rushed up and slapped him to death when he heard that. See, this is the good son you've spoiled. The old man was the Parch Prime Palace Lord. Everything that happened now was because the Parch Prime Palace Lord's grandson Zhang Xian had captured a woman 2 months ago. It was not a rare occurrence. Zhang Xian was a pervert, and that was a well-known fact in the Nebula Prefecture. It was not the first time he had captured women back to the palace. However, the person he captured this time was a little special. That woman was from the Black Heaven sect. If it were 2 months ago, the Parch Prime Palace Lord would not have cared much about this. After all, 2 months ago the Black Heaven sect had secluded themselves from the world, and Chu Kuangren had the heavenly punishment seal on him. Everyone thought he had fallen. So what if he captured one of his disciples? However, things had changed too quickly in just 2 short months. Chu Kuangren entered the world, ascended to the top of the soaring dragon leaderboard, and shocked the world with his brilliant runic techniques. Then he destroyed the craggy ocean tower, and when he broke the seal his strength was like that of a living emperor. He suppressed all enemies. The 5 great orthodoxies were wiped out in one day. The world was terrified. Everyone was in awe of Chu Kuangren. Yet, Parch Prime Palace had captured one of his disciples. Was there anything worse than this? Father, it's just a disciple. It shouldn't be a big deal. At the very most we can just give them some compensation. The middle-aged man said. Bullsh *T. Haven't you guys investigated Chu Kuangren's personality? A few years ago, before he had become a saint, how many saints had he killed for the sake of his disciples? How many orthodoxies were destroyed? Now that he's a martial saint, he's invincible. If he were to find out that his disciple has been mistreated here, who knows what kind of trouble he'll cause? Parch Prime Palace Master felt a headache coming on. He glared viciously at Zhang Xian and said coldly, If necessary, I don't mind sacrificing you. Hearing this, Zhang Xian's face paled. I'll ask you again. You didn't do anything to that woman, did you? No. Zhang Xian hurriedly shook his head. This woman has a strong and unyielding personality. Every time she would threaten me with death. I did not dare to act rashly, so I kept her locked in the U prison. Other than me, no one else could enter. As long as you didn't touch her, everything is fine. He was only locked up for a few days, so it shouldn't be a problem. At that moment, a disciple suddenly walked in. Sect leader Daoist is back. Parch Prime Palace Master was delighted. Ichi is back. Lu Yiqing was a Daoist of Parch Prime Palace. He was also the most outstanding Sky Pride among the younger generation of Parch Prime Palace and was on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. He had always been the disciple that Parch Prime Palace Master was proud of. Lu Yiqing, that guy is back. Zhang Xian's eyes darkened. Everyone in Parch Prime Palace respected this Taoist. Even his grandfather, the Parch Prime Palace master, doted on him. On the other hand, other than the title of the sect leader's grandson, no one in Parch Prime Palace respected him. This made him extremely dissatisfied with Lu Yiqing. Naturally, he was unhappy to hear that Lu Yiqing had returned. Lu Yiqing walked into the main hall. "You're finally back. I couldn't contact you for the past few days, so I thought something happened to you." Parch Prime Palace master smiled. Lu Yiqing was a little embarrassed. He had been locked up in the Black Heaven sect for the past few days, and all his belongings had been confiscated. Of course, Parch Prime Palace master could not contact him. "Sect leader, I've brought 2 guests with me this time. Yo, senior brother Lu sure has a wide circle of friends. You brought back Yinli a few days ago. I wonder what kind of impressive people you've brought back this time," Zhang Xian said sarcastically. "Be careful with your words, junior brother. I'm not worthy of these 2 people." Lu Yiqing said solemnly. "There are people that Lu Yiqing is not worthy of? What a joke. You're a Taoist of Parch Prime Palace. Are you belittling yourself or Parch Prime Palace?" Zhang Xian said sarcastically. "Alright, shut up." Parch Prime Palace master scolded Zhang Xian. He then said, "Yiqing, where are they?" "They're waiting outside the palace." "Alright, bring them in." "Alright." Lu Yiqing hurriedly walked out. Out of courtesy, those 2 let him in first, but he dared not let them wait for too long. "Look at how anxious he is. If I didn't know better, I would have thought it was some boundary emperor or something." Zhang Xian curled his lips. Yiqing's return this time is a little unusual. Even Parch Prime Palace master felt that Lu Yiqing's behavior was a little too much. What kind of person was he to be so arrogant? Even if he was the leader of those orthodoxies, there was no need for him to act this way. Parch Prime Palace master glanced at Zhang Xian's frivolous expression and remembered the trouble he had caused. He snorted coldly and picked up the teacup on the table, wanting to drink some water to calm himself down. At that moment, Lu Yiqing had already led the 2 guests into the palace. One of them was dressed in white and had black hair. He was handsome and otherworldly, while the other had a mask covering his face, revealing only a pair of cold eyes. "Gacha." Parch Prime Palace master's hand trembled and the teacup fell to the ground. "Chu Kuangren." Parch Prime Palace master exclaimed. He had thought about who Lu Yiqing's guest could be, but he never expected it to be Chu Kuangren. What was he doing here? Did he already know that Zhang Xian had captured his disciple? Chu Kuangren, who had just entered the palace, could not help but feel surprised. No way. His current reputation was indeed quite big. However, there was no need for him to look like this. He was not here to kill, so why did he look so shocked? Especially Zhang Xian. When he heard Chu Kuangren's name, he staggered and almost fell off his chair. How could he be so scared? Something was not right. Chu Kuangren squinted his eyes. "I didn't expect the guest Yiqing mentioned to be sect leader Chu. If I knew it was sect leader Chu, I would have welcomed you personally." Parch Prime Palace master quickly calmed down and smiled. "I'm here to visit, but I didn't prepare a visiting card beforehand. I apologize for that." Chu Kuangren smiled. "Come, please take a seat." "Thank you. May I know the reason for your visit, sect leader Chu?" "It's like this. One of my disciples has gone missing in Parch Prime Palace's domain. I'm here to borrow Parch Prime Palace's power to help me search for her. I wonder if you're willing to help?" As soon as he said that, a strange silence filled the palace. Chapter 475. Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's words, the Parch Prime Palace lord remained calm and collected. However, Zhang Xian, who was beside him, did not have the same level of composure. Panic was written all over his face and Chu Kuangren saw it all. There's something fishy going on with this Parch Prime Palace. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. That disciple of mine is a woman named Shang Qingxue. The person beside her is her ancestor, a sage ruler. He has been separated from Shang Qingxue for many years, and his only wish is to see his descendant again. If anything happens to her, he will never let this matter rest. Chu Kuangren said as he scanned the expressions of everyone present. The color on Zhang Xian's face gradually faded, and his face became extremely pale. His body was also trembling uncontrollably, Chu Kuangren saw all these subtle movements. So, where is she? Chu Kuangren let out a fierce roar. His voice was like thunder and the entire palace shook. Zhang Xian was so shocked that he almost fainted. The Parch Prime Palace Lord's expression changed and he quickly said, "Sect Leader Chu, I won't hide this from you. Your disciple is now in Parch Prime Palace. It's just a small misunderstanding. Please listen to my explanation, Sect Leader Chu. Should I listen to your explanation or your lies?" Chu Kuangren said coldly, "Bring me to her." "This way please, Sect Leader Chu." At this point the Parch Prime Palace Lord no longer held any hope of getting lucky. He brought Chu Kuangren and the white-robed general towards the Serenity Pavilion. The Serenity Pavilion was specially used by Parch Prime Palace to imprison disciples who had made mistakes. It was equipped with countless restrictions that could prevent spiritual thoughts from prying. This also explained why Chu Kuangren could not find Shang Qingxue when he used his spiritual thoughts to search for her. There were many rooms in the Serenity Pavilion. Chu Kuangren and the others entered the Serenity Pavilion, passed through a corridor, and arrived at an exquisite courtyard. When they opened the door to a room, inside a woman in a blue dress stood up, drew a long sword and held it against her own neck. "If you dare come any closer, I'll..." "Sect Leader." Before Shang Qingxue could finish her sentence, she saw a familiar figure in front of her. She unconsciously put down the long sword in her hand and her eyes reddened. Chu Kuangren looked at her with a terrifyingly gloomy expression. Shang Qingxue didn't seem to have suffered much damage other than her aura being weakened and her spiritual power being restricted. However, the moment they opened the door, Chu Kuangren and the white-robed general's instinctive action of unsheathing their swords and threatening to kill themselves had deeply hurt Chu Kuangren and the white-robed general. What was it that made her threaten him with death? What kind of psychological pressure had she been under these days? Chu Kuangren did not have to think too deeply to guess what was going on. "Qingxue, the sect leader has returned to bring you home." Chu Kuangren took a deep breath and tried his best to calm his expression. "Sect leader." Shang Qingxue could not hold it in any longer. She threw herself at him, tears streaming down her cheeks. Chu Kuangren had some understanding of Shang Qingxue. Back then she was able to grit her teeth and persevere through his hellish training. Now that she saw him she couldn't help but cry. It was easy to imagine the grievances he had suffered in the past few days. After a while, Shang Qingxue let go of Chu Kuangren. She rubbed her eyes and tried to calm herself down. "Sect leader, how did you find me? We'll talk about this later. First tell me who imprisoned you here." Chu Kuangren asked. Shang Qingxue told him everything that had happened. 2 months ago she passed by this place while training and happened to bump into Parch Prime Palace's Zhang Xian. Lusting after her beauty, he tricked her into coming to Parch Prime Palace and then poisoned her to seal her spiritual power. In these 2 months she had been threatening death, relying on the meager amount of spiritual energy in her body to persevere. She had not taken a single drop of water or rice. She did not even dare to sleep, afraid that Zhang Xian would take advantage of her. Zhang Xian was not in a hurry either. Instead he continued to play with her. He was certain that she would not last much longer. It was at this moment that Chu Kuangren arrived. However, Chu Kuangren knew that even if he did not come, Zhang Xian would not dare to hurt Shang Qingxue. That was because the news of him breaking the heavenly punishment seal had spread like wildfire. Even so, Zhang Xian still had to pay the price. "Sect leader Zhang, I don't think I need to tell you what to do. I'm sure you know what to do," Chu Kuangren said coldly. "Sect leader Chu, since Miss Shang isn't hurt, Parch Prime Palace is willing to compensate her. Please forgive her, Sect leader Chu." The Parch Prime Palace Lord said. After all, Zhang Xian was his grandson. He would save him if he could. "I'm not going to repeat myself. Unless you want the entire Parch Prime Palace to perish with him?" Chu Kuangren's tone darkened. The Parch Prime Palace Lord was speechless. "I understand." Not long after, Zhang Xian was brought before Chu Kuangren and the others. "Sect leader Chu, please spare my life. I won't do it again." Zhang Xian kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. "Qingxue, I'll leave this to you." Without hesitation, Shang Qingxue drew her long sword. With a sword ray, Zhang Xian's head fell to the ground and spun twice. 2 months of fear and anxiety seemed to have been vented with that one sword attack. Shang Qingxue, who had not eaten or drunk for 2 months and had her spiritual power sealed, finally could not take it anymore and fainted. The white-robed general was one step ahead of Chu Kuangren to help her up. Looking at her face, a rare hint of gentleness appeared in the white-robed general's cold eyes. You look so much like Ayu back then. Ayu was the princess of the Lu kingdom, the lover of the white-robed general. Take her away to rest. All right. After the white-robed general left, Chu Kuangren did not even look at the corpse on the ground. Instead, he took out a letter and handed it to the Parch Prime Palace Lord. Besides looking for the Black Heaven sect's disciples, there's another matter. That is about Lu Yiqing sneaking into the Black Heaven sect and being caught red-handed by me. If you want to redeem him, you'll have to pay a ransom. Beside him, Lu Yiqing smiled bitterly. He knew this was not the end of it. The Parch Prime Palace Lord was dumbfounded as he looked at the letter in his hand. What's going on? Chu Kuangren had killed his own grandson in Parch Prime Palace, and now he wanted them to pay a ransom? What kind of logic is this? Besides that, although Shang Qingxue is fine, she must have suffered a lot over the past few months. She must be compensated for her psychological damage. What? There's psychological damage too? The Parch Prime Palace Lord was stunned, but when he saw Chu Kuangren's cold gaze, he lost all his temper. What else could he do? Of course he had to pay. Unless Parch Prime Palace wanted to be like the other orthodoxies and take a hit. However, they did not dare to do that. A day later, Chu Kuangren had obtained a huge amount of cultivation resources, which almost emptied out the entire desolate Prime sect's fortune. After that, Chu Kuangren and the others were ready to return to the sect. Just as they stepped out of the Parch Prime sect, they saw a pillar of light piercing through the clouds, and a powerful energy wave erupted. Oh, another opportunity of fortune has appeared? But I don't sense any Emperor's aura. I wonder what kind of opportunity of fortune this is. Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised as he stood on the tower. Beside him, the white-robed general hesitated before he said, "Sect leader, I'd like to go and have a look." "Wait a minute, what did you call me?" Chu Kuangren said with a surprised look. "Since my descendants are in the Black Heaven sect, and you saved my life, it's only right for me to call you sect leader. Don't tell me you don't want me to join?" "Of course not. You're more than welcome," Chu Kuangren said. Chapter 476. The vast might covered the Nebula Dao province, and the white-robed general expressed his desire to take a look. Qingxue has not woken up yet. This is my first time meeting her, so I wanted to prepare a greeting gift for her. This opportunity is just right. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Sure. He was also quite interested in this opportunity. Under the detection of the treasure-seeking technique, a large amount of information about the treasure rushed towards him. Oh, there are quite a lot of them. Chu Kuangren was a little surprised. Although he did not care about most of the things, there were still some good things. For example, in the perception of the treasure-seeking technique, he discovered several quasi-emperor level treasures. There was even an emperor level treasure. Congratulations! You have obtained the legendary spell array, Sealing Sword Array. On his way to the location of the opportunity of fortune, Chu Kuangren drew a prize as usual, and he was quite satisfied with the prize he received. Although he already had many legendary level rewards such as imperial scriptures, imperial weapons, sword formations, etc. But who would complain about having too many legendary prizes? The Sealing Sword Formation was similar to the Four Seasons Sword Formation. It was an extremely powerful sword formation, but its focus was different. The Four Seasons Sword Formation focused on offense, while the Sealing Sword Formation focused on sealing. After Chu Kuangren retrieved the formation, he no longer paid any attention to it. Very soon, he and the white-robed general arrived at the location of the fortuitous opportunity. It was a huge volcano crater. Incomparably hot fire-type energy filled the surroundings. Many cultivators were rushing over. This is a volcano nourished by the earth veins. Some sharp-eyed cultivators recognized this opportunity. Rumor has it that earth veins are divided into non-attribute earth veins and attribute earth veins. Among them, attribute earth veins can easily produce all kinds of treasures. This volcano is connected to a fire attribute earth vein, and it seems to be of a very high grade. This volcano has accumulated countless years of fire attribute earth chi, And today, it has finally reached its limit and is ready to erupt. Palace Master Parch Prime said with great knowledge. He had also noticed Chu Kuangren and the white-robed general who were not too far away. His expression changed slightly, but he pretended not to see them. Chu Kuangren did not care about him either. His gaze swept across the group of cultivators who had arrived at the volcano. The Eye of Revelation activated. He didn't put most cultivators in his eyes. However, there were some cultivators who caught his attention. They were the prodigies on the Hidden Dragon list. To be more precise, they were the top 10 prodigies on the Hidden Dragon roll. Besides Zhan Hongying, whom Chu Kuangren previously met at Acheron Manor, there were also Xiao Jingchen, Wang Tianting, Yu Ling, and a few others. These people were all from ancient or even ancient orthodoxies. What surprised Chu Kuangren the most was Xiao Jingchen. This third-ranked sky pride on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard was not only a descendant of the ancient by family of the Nine Heavens, but he was also the first heavenly golden imperial physique in the heavenly golden palace tens of thousands of years ago. He was also the person who had challenged him previously. He's lucky to have survived the heavenly golden palace. Did he sneak away while I was fighting Boundary Emperor Wue? Chu Kuangren murmured. He looked at Xiao Jingchen with a gleam in his eyes as if he was considering if he should kill him. Xiao Jingchen, who was being stared at by Chu Kuangren, could not help but shudder. He stood a distance away and did not dare to look Chu Kuangren in the eye. Even though his orthodoxy had been destroyed, he did not dare to show even the slightest bit of hostility. He was afraid that Chu Kuangren would suddenly find him and kill him. To his relief, Chu Kuangren looked away after a few glances at him. It was as if Chu Kuangren could not be bothered with him. It was as if Chu Kuangren thought that Xiao Jingchen was too weak to fight. This person is too terrifying. I'm no match for him now. If I can avoid conflict, it's best not to provoke him. Xiao Jingchen thought to himself. To him, staying alive was the way to go. It was not embarrassing to be a coward at a time like this. Chu Kuangren took in all of Xiao Jingchen's expressions and could roughly guess what he was thinking. To kill or not to kill, it was all up to Chu Kuangren. To him, killing Xiao Jingchen was as easy as lifting his hand. It was effortless. If that was the case, he might as well keep him alive. Who knew, he might be of some use in the future. Ancient orthodoxies by family. I should pay more attention to the Nine Heavens. All the emperors are there. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. While Chu Kuangren was observing the Nine Heavens sky prides, the other Nine Heavens sky prides were also observing him with fear and seriousness. Is that Chu Kuangren? Wang Tianting from the ancient Wang family looked at Chu Kuangren and said in a serious tone. This young man is really good looking. A voluptuous woman licked her red lips and said. She looked at Chu Kuangren with a lustful look in her eyes. Behind her, 5 furry, fiery red tails were unconsciously wagging. She was Hu Meiren, a sky pride from the ancient heavenly fox tribe. A coquettish fox. Wang Tianting glanced at her and snorted. Tisehise Chu Kuangren. This person may be the biggest obstacle in the human realm. A young man hidden under a cloak looked up and glanced at Chu Kuangren before quickly retracting his gaze. This person was not from the Nine Heavens, nor was he from the firmament star. Instead, he was a sky pride from the underworld demonic realm, Tuba. Buzz buzz buzz. At that moment, the volcano started to shake violently. A huge amount of lava gushed out. Along with the eruption of lava, many treasures from the earth veins were sent flying in all directions due to the impact of the volcano's eruption. All the sky prides and sages immediately made their moves to snatch them. Most of these treasures were sage-grade treasures, which were extremely rare. Haha, these treasures are mine. Wang Tianting laughed out loud. He took a step forward and reached out with his 5 fingers, which turned into a giant colorful spiritual power hand that contained the Taoist rhymes of the 5 elements. It was a terrifying sight. It was a very powerful Boundary Emperor technique. With a single grab, more than 10 treasures were caught in his hand. The cultivators who tried to snatch the treasures along the way were all sent flying by the giant hand. Pippi, go for this old lady. Zhan Hongying let out a soft roar. The black mist behind her let out a low growl before it started to move and dash towards those treasures. During that process, the black mist dissipated, revealing a ferocious black demonic wolf. It opened its mouth wide and bit on the treasures before it skillfully placed them into a yin and yang ring on its neck. An underworld demonic wolf? Judging from its aura, this is the highest-ranked bloodline, the Wolf King bloodline. Tuba from the demonic realm looked at Zhang Hongying in shock. He initially wanted to attack, but he immediately dismissed the idea. This person in front of him must be from that tribe. If she found out that he was from the demonic realm, a fierce battle would be inevitable. For the sake of the bigger picture, he had to endure it for now. On the other side, Humaran's fox tails swayed behind her, and a strange seductive power emanated from her. The cultivators who had obtained the treasures around her became mesmerized, and they willingly handed over their treasures. Thank you, everyone. Humaran chuckled. The fact that she had obtained a bunch of treasures so effortlessly made many cultivators fearful. They cursed her for being a demonic woman, but their eyes lingered on her sexy body, unwilling to leave. All the Sky Prides used their techniques to fight for the treasures. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren and the white-robed general stood in the air without moving. Chapter 477. Chu Kuangren and the white-robed general stood in the air. They did not move. That was because the treasures that erupted from the volcano were mostly ordinary sage-level treasures. They were not interested in them at all. Chu Kuangren had just destroyed the 5 great orthodoxies and looted countless treasures. In addition to the treasures he had accumulated previously, the Black Heaven sect now had too many sage-level treasures. Chu Kuangren looked at these treasures with a lack of interest. After the volcano erupted for the first time, dozens of sage-level treasures appeared. Most of them were obtained by the Sky Prides and powerful sages. After everyone was done fighting for the treasures, the volcano erupted for the second time. This time, most of the treasures that appeared were sage-level treasures as well. However, their quality was slightly better than the previous ones. They could be considered great sage-level treasures. Many people continued to fight for them. Suddenly, Chu Kuangren's expression changed slightly. The real treasures have appeared. The volcano erupted for the third time. This time, apart from more than 10 sage-level treasures, there were also 2 boundary emperors. They were 2 fiery red crystals that emanated an incredibly dense fire-based Taoist rhyme. This is an earth flame crystal. For cultivators who cultivate the Tao of fire, this is definitely a rare treasure. If I have this earth flame crystal, I can definitely break through to become a sage ruler. A few powerful sages immediately made their moves. The Sky Prides also joined in the fight. Wang Tianting in particular looked like he was determined to get it. The 5 elements Tao that he cultivated included fire-based Tao. This crystal is mine. With a lift of his hand, a loud explosion was heard. The 5-colored ray of light transformed into a horrifying giant hand that sent the sages flying. Wang Tianting then went straight for the earth flame crystal. However, at that moment a strange fluctuation appeared. All Wang Tianting saw was that the earth flame crystal that he was about to obtain disappeared into thin air. It disappeared right under everyone's noses. What happened? Where is it? Suddenly someone exclaimed. The earth flame crystal that disappeared into thin air reappeared in Chu Kuangren's hand. He was casually playing with it. How did he do that? It's a spatial technique. Wang Tianting said. He was the closest to the earth flame crystal, so he sensed the spatial fluctuation. Many others did the same. Chu Kuangren must be relying on this spatial technique to attack the 5 great orthodoxies from 1,000,000 kilometers away. Spatial techniques are extremely rare. At most, cultivators can simply use the power of space, but it's extremely difficult to use it, let alone someone like him who can use it so skillfully. This fellow has too many tricks up his sleeves. Everyone discussed in low voices, feeling somewhat helpless. Chu Kuangren was right in front of them. If he wanted to compete with them, they would not stand a chance. The most they could do was snatch the things that Chu Kuangren did not want. This feeling was too suffocating. Just as everyone was exclaiming in admiration, the volcano erupted again. This time, more quasi-emperor level treasures appeared. Quick, do it. However, before they could even get close, Chu Kuangren had already used his spatial conveyor skill to move those boundary emperor-grade treasures in front of him. Faster, thief. How are we supposed to play like this? Isn't this spatial technique a little too overpowered? Everyone's faces darkened at that. As long as Chu Kuangren wanted it, they could not even get a single strand of it. Chu Kuangren, don't you think you've gone too far by not leaving us any good stuff? one of the sages could not help but say. Chu Kuangren looked at that sage as if he was looking at an idiot. You're not happy with this? I believe many of you here have the same thought as me. Upon hearing that, the people who were standing close to him quickly retreated. Not. I didn't. Don't spout nonsense. That's right. Why would we be unhappy? Treasures should belong to those who are capable. Since Brother Chu has the ability, it's only natural for him to take it. Everyone glared at that sage as if they wanted to devour him. *CK. You can have a death wish, but don't drag us down with you. Like you. Who's as stupid as you to face Chu Kuangren head-on? Look, no one has any objections except for you. Don't you think it's your fault? Chu Kuangren said. You guys. That sage looked around and saw that no one stood up for him. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth, but he still quietly walked back to the crowd. The current Chu Kuangren was like the sun in the sky. Who would dare to go against him? Was he not afraid that one day he would be struck by a palm from the sky? At that moment, the surrounding spiritual chi suddenly surged violently and gathered towards the volcano's crater. Everyone's attention was attracted to it. A large amount of lava gushed out. The number of treasures that far exceeded the previous ones was shot out. The crowd began to fight for them. This time they were aiming for the sage-grade treasures. As for the Boundary Emperor treasures, no one dared to fight for them anymore. No one could win against Chu Kuangren. They could only fight for the sage-grade treasures that he was not interested in. Look. I think there's something in that lava. Suddenly, some of the cultivators noticed that at the bottom of the volcano, there was a ball of blazing golden light that was emanating waves of Emperor-grade energy. Chu Kuangren activated his spiritual thought. He realized that when his spiritual thought got close to that golden light, it was burned to ashes by a domineering heat. That heat could even burn his spiritual thought. Interesting, Chu Kuangren said with interest. The other's eyes were burning with passion. An Emperor-grade treasure. It's definitely an Emperor-grade treasure. It was born from the lava that was nourished by the earth chi. Could it be the legendary earthen core flame? An Emperor-grade earthen core flame at that. Some of the Sky Prides were ready to fight for it. Although they knew that they could not win against Chu Kuangren, they still wanted to give it a try. After all, that was the legendary Emperor Flame. Even in the 9 heavens, Emperor Flames were very rare. Every cultivator who could control an Emperor Flame had combat strength that far surpassed their peers. Chirp. At that moment, a sharp screech could be heard from afar. The distant sky was dyed red by the fiery light, and a beautiful godly phoenix with a blood-red body flew over. Wherever it passed, thousands of beasts prostrated themselves on the ground. That was the power of a divine beast. Lil Red, why is she here? Chu Kuangren was surprised. Brother, I sensed a powerful fire-based energy. This energy will be of great help to me, so I came. The godly phoenix Lil Red came before Chu Kuangren and said. The Sky Prides of the 9 heavens could not help but exclaim when they saw the godly phoenix. A divine beast? The lower realm has given birth to a divine beast. The rumors are true. The godly phoenix has acknowledged Chu Kuangren as its master. His luck is just too terrifying. That's a divine beast we're talking about. Even the ancient remnant beasts are inferior to it. When it grows up, it'll at least become a great emperor. No, according to the ancient legends, even a great emperor would have to retreat when faced with a divine beast that has grown up. Shao Jingchen, Wang Tianting, and the others looked at Chu Kuangren with envy and jealousy. Chu Kuangren was already a supreme sage, and now the godly phoenix had acknowledged him as its master. Could he be the legendary child of destiny? Compared to him, the so-called Sky Prides like them did not even deserve to carry his shoes. Chapter 478. Tisk, if I can rope such a man to my side, he will definitely be a great help to me. Hu Meiren, the pride of the 9 heavens, licked her lips and thought to herself. She had to admit that Chu Kuangren really moved her heart. Her celestial appearance was extraordinary and refined. He was extremely powerful and had even been recognized by the divine phoenix as its master. Although he came from the lower domain, his background was not as powerful as those ancient orthodoxies. However, if such a genius could come to the 9 skies, there would definitely be a lot of people who wanted to rope him in, and he would be able to choose from them. The Heavenly Fox clan was not a human clan. However, he did not mind taking in such a human son-in-law. Not far away, Zhan Hongying clicked her tongue in wonder and said, "That fox seems to have taken a liking to that monster. It's so smelly." Then, as if she thought of something, she said to the demonic hell wolf beside her, "Do you think I can get the Yellow Springs tablet back with my beauty?" The demon wolf was obviously stunned. It tilted its head and revealed a human-like suspicion in its eyes. It seemed to be saying, F***ck not giving me any face at all. Zhan Hongying angrily punched the demon wolf's head. Howl, in the sky. Chu Kuangren turned a blind eye to everyone's strange gazes. "Go ahead and seize the opportunity," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Anyway, he was going to take this Emperor's fire away anyway. Since this Emperor's fire was of great use to Divine Phoenix Xiaohong, he would let it use it. All right. The Divine Phoenix circled in the air for a while before diving down towards the mouth of the volcano. It ignored the scorching lava and plunged in. Chu Kuangren stood tall at the mouth of the volcano like a divine sword. None of the cultivators around him dared to make a move. This scene gave Chu Kuangren an inexplicable sense of familiarity. When Lil Red was first born, it was also at the mouth of a volcano. At that time there were countless beasts lurking around and the scene was pretty much the same as now. Chu Kuangren chuckled as he recalled something. Hearing his words, everyone's faces darkened. What does that mean? Was he comparing them to a group of demonic beasts? Umaran did not think much of it. She was originally a beast, but how could her bloodline be compared to those lowly demonic beasts? The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. In the lava, the godly phoenix transformed into a beam of red light and arrived before the ball of golden light, which was the archfire. It swallowed it whole. This left many cultivators speechless. One had to know that that was an emperor flame. Even if a sage were to get close to it, he or she would be burnt into ashes with ease. However, the divine phoenix had swallowed it whole. A divine beast is indeed a divine beast. It is indeed very mystical. The divine phoenix is a fire elemental divine beast. Even a sage king has to approach this large fire carefully. Only she would dare to swallow it in this world. A cultivator exclaimed in admiration. With Chu Kuangren around and the godly phoenix swallowing the emperor flame in one gulp, everyone had given up on the idea of obtaining the emperor flame. They were still here because they wanted to see what would happen to the divine phoenix after it swallowed the fire. Time flew by. After the divine phoenix swallowed the archfire, it stayed in the lava. Boom, boom. At this moment the sky suddenly flashed with lightning and thunder. A burst of incomparably gorgeous rainbow light appeared. Layers of clouds surged and gathered at the mouth of the volcano, forming a tribulation cloud with a diameter of several dozen li. Heavenly tribulation. Could this be the divine phoenix's sage heavenly tribulation? This is the 9-colored heavenly tribulation. Everyone exclaimed. Meanwhile, Xiao Jingchen, Zhan Hongying, and the others could not help but feel the domineering aura of the heavenly tribulation. This heavenly tribulation was much stronger than theirs. They only had the 7-colored heavenly tribulation. However, this was the rare 9-colored heavenly tribulation. The 9-colored heavenly tribulation is exactly the same as the one Chu Kuangren faced back then. As expected of a divine beast. That's not right. This 9-colored heavenly tribulation is much weaker than the one Chu Kuangren faced back then. Although the domineering aura is strong, it's not as terrifying as it was back then. Chu Kuangren dragged hundreds of thousands of people along with him. How can that be compared? Not only did he attract the heavenly tribulation, but he also attracted the heavenly punishment. The crowd discussed among themselves. Some of them recalled the scene of Chu Kuangren's ascension a few years ago. That magnificent feat of dragging hundreds of thousands of people along with him was still unforgettable. It was the only one in history. Xiao Jingchen, Zhan Hongying, and the others were speechless. Dragging hundreds of thousands of people along with him? What a magnificent feat it was. Unfortunately, they did not get to witness it with their own eyes. Boom. At this moment, a red light suddenly rose from the mouth of the volcano. It was the godly phoenix. The godly phoenix soared in the sky and let out a piercing screech at the 9-colored heavenly tribulation. The might of a divine beast swept across the world. Chu Kuangren stood in the sky and looked at the godly phoenix that was releasing its boundless divine aura. He suddenly felt like his daughter had grown up. "Aren't you worried about her?" Beside him, the white-robed general asked Chu Kuangren curiously. She'll have to face this sooner or later. I believe she'll be able to get through this safely. She's a divine beast after all." Chu Kuangren laughed. The light of the heavenly tribulation descended and enveloped the godly phoenix. A tribulation lightning bolt as thick as a water bucket suddenly struck down. The godly phoenix flapped her wings and shattered that powerful tribulation lightning bolt with her bare wings. Her physical strength was truly powerful. Following that, the second, third, and fourth tribulation lightning bolts struck down one after another. However, they were all blocked by the godly phoenix without exception. It was not until the sixth tribulation lightning bolt descended that a gigantic colorful lightning python descended. Only then did the godly phoenix's body ignite with surges of golden flames. She had refined most of the emperor flames that she had swallowed earlier and integrated it into her own flames, making them much stronger. As the flames burned on the surface of her body, they collided with the lightning python. The lightning python dissipated. The godly phoenix returned to the mouth of the volcano, her golden eyes staring at the tribulation clouds in the sky. The flames on her body burned as her Taoist rhyme rose steadily. The seventh tribulation lightning was brewing. A ferocious lightning dragon was gradually formed. "Come," the godly phoenix said loudly. Chu Kuangren did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that her voice had changed a little. It sounded more mature. "Roar." The lightning python let out an angry roar and suddenly descended. The flames on the godly phoenix's body burned fiercely, condensing into a gigantic fireball that flew out and collided with the lightning python. Amidst the explosion, the flames and lightning collided and spread out in all directions. The lava in the volcano tumbled and continuously spewed out. The seventh tribulation lightning was over. What followed was the eighth tribulation lightning. The eighth tribulation lightning was even more powerful. Even with the godly phoenix's strength, it still suffered quite a bit of damage. A large number of feathers fell off and phoenix blood splattered everywhere. The cultivators present could not help but gulp when they saw the feathers and phoenix blood. Those were all incredible treasures. However, under the nine-colored heavenly tribulation, no one dared to act rashly. Chu Kuangren watched from afar. He was the person closest to the heavenly tribulation, and when he saw that the godly phoenix was injured, a hint of heartache appeared in his eyes. He gripped the descendant self-sword at his waist tightly. If the godly phoenix showed signs of not being able to withstand the ninth tribulation lightning, he would attack without hesitation. Although that would disrupt the godly phoenix's ascension and prevent her foundation from reaching a perfect state, it was still better than losing her life. "Brother, I can do it." At that moment the godly phoenix spoke. She stood up and looked at the tribulation clouds that were brewing the last tribulation lightning with a determined look on her face. Even though she was injured, her pride did not diminish. After all, she was a supreme divine beast. Chapter 479. The godly phoenix stood proudly as her body surged with divine radiance. In the sky, the ninth tribulation lightning had already struck down from the nine-colored tribulation cloud, forming a huge lightning pillar that enveloped the godly phoenix. Boundless lightning energy wreaked havoc on the divine phoenix's body, constantly destroying it. Large amounts of flames surged on her body to resist the tribulation lightning. The godly phoenix's body continued to crack and blood splattered everywhere. However, she still persevered. Her golden eyes were filled with determination as the spiritual power within her body surged to fight against the tribulation lightning. Finally, the tribulation lightning dissipated. The godly phoenix fell to the ground, her body charred black. Her original noble appearance was nowhere to be seen. She was already on her last breath. Chu Kuangren breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the godly phoenix was not dead, he could use the spring breeze healing technique to heal her. Just as he was about to go up, the godly phoenix stopped him with a stare. Then the godly phoenix's head tilted to the side as she ended her own life. She fell to the ground, no longer emitting any aura. Dead. The divine beast is dead? Are you kidding me? Even a divine beast would not be able to survive such a terrifying nine-colored heavenly tribulation. So what a shame. That was a divine beast we're talking about. The crowd discussed among themselves as they looked at the godly phoenix with pity. Some of them looked at the godly phoenix's body with fiery eyes. Even if it was a dead divine beast, it was still a divine beast. The energy contained in its body was definitely a treasure to any cultivator. The phoenix marrow, blood and guts were all priceless items. Sect leader, White-robed general, walked up to Chu Kuangren wanting to comfort him. However, he was surprised to find Chu Kuangren standing there calmly. He was not as sad as he imagined. Could it be that Chu Kuangren's relationship with the godly phoenix was not as good as he thought? Nirvana state, progress 51%. Taoist runes circulated in Chu Kuangren's eyes. The Eye of Revelation had obtained the godly phoenix's current status. That was why he was not sad. The godly phoenix was not dead yet. He was reborn. Boom. At that moment, a loud explosion came from the sky. A pitch-black giant hand descended and grabbed the godly phoenix. That gigantic hand contained an extremely terrifying domineering aura, and the windstorm it stirred up was enough to force White-robed General, who was standing beside Chu Kuangren, to retreat by nearly 100 meters. The surrounding cultivators, including the geniuses from the Nine Heavens, backed away. Their expressions changed slightly when they saw the giant hand descending from the sky. This pressure, it's a quasi-emperor. A quasi-emperor has made his move. He wants the divine phoenix's corpse. The crowd turned pale with fright. He did not expect the fall of the divine phoenix to attract the covetous eyes of a quasi-emperor. Just as the giant hand was suppressing everything and forcing everyone back. Humph. A cold snort sounded. Chu Kuangren stood tall and straight like a sword, unmoving like a mountain. He raised his hand slightly and casually, but when he struck out with his palm, a terrifying storm swept out in all directions, shaking the entire volcano. A vast golden palm print condensed and blasted towards the giant black hand. When the two forces collided, the impact caused the entire volcano to crack open. The mountains and rivers within 10,000 kilometers trembled. A muffled groan came from the void. A black-robed old man was knocked out of the void. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation. Bai Liyin, Boundary Emperor, cultivates the dark flaming sky-devouring art, which allows one to devour fire tribute treasures to increase their strength. Devouring fire tribute treasures to increase his strength? No wonder he would attack the godly phoenix. If one were to ask what the most precious fire tribute treasures in this world were, what could possibly compare to the godly phoenix's corpse? The supreme sage's strength is indeed formidable. Boundary Emperor Bai Liyin looked at Chu Kuangren with a hint of awe in his eyes. The supreme sage had always existed in ancient legends. Now that he had appeared in this world, the strength he displayed was indeed terrifying. Bai Liyin's cultivation level was already considered one of the best among the boundary emperors, but he was at a disadvantage when he clashed with Chu Kuangren earlier. How do you want to die for coveting the godly phoenix? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The descendant self-sword at his waist revealed half of its blade, and a chilling sword-based Taoist rhyme swept out in all directions, engulfing Bai Liyin. Sect Leader Chu, why are you so angry? This godly phoenix is already dead. I'm willing to exchange it with some treasures. What do you think? Bai Liyin said. Not long after he woke up from the forbidden area, he sensed the opportunity of fortune in this volcano eruption, so he came here to take a look. He did not expect to encounter a godly phoenix ascension here. This godly phoenix's body would be of great help to him. If he could refine it, his strength and potential would increase by leaps and bounds. It would not be impossible for him to become the strongest cultivator below the emperors. How could he miss out on such an opportunity of fortune? Even 10 of your lives won't be enough to exchange for a single feather of the godly phoenix. Chu Kuangren said coldly. The descendant's self-sword at his waist was instantly unsheathed, and a purple sword ray shot out. Its peerlessly sharp Taoist rhyme instantly locked onto Bai Liyin. Bai Liyin did not expect Chu Kuangren to attack without hesitation. He quickly blocked the attack. The surrounding spiritual chi surged. This was a volcano, so the fire tribute chi was extremely dense. To Bai Liyin, this was the best battlefield. As he attacked with his palm, the flow of flames converged into a storm. The sword and palm collided. Both of them were forced back. Although most of the impact was borne by the two of them, The energy that was released still sent many cultivators at the scene flying. Bai Lin's body trembled from the impact. Although he was a boundary emperor, he still felt a little short of breath. However, when he saw that Chu Kuangren was not affected at all, he could not help but be speechless. How could this guy's sage body be so powerful? Dark flames engulf. Bai Lin raised his hand and absorbed the fire attribute spiritual qi from the surroundings, which turned into streaks of black flames in the void. The flames condensed into a monstrous flow of flames, and an extremely domineering Taoist rhyme filled the air as it headed towards Chu Kuangren to devour him. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and unleashed a sword attack. That sword attack contained an even more domineering aura, and it even contained an extremely powerful heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. With the support of the heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme, the power of Chu Kuangren's sword attack was raised to an extremely terrifying level. The sword qi tore apart the terrifying black flames in an instant. Bai Lin's eyes narrowed and he struck out with both his palms at the same time. Although he barely managed to block the sword light, a bloody wound appeared on his palms. What a powerful sword ray. What's that Taoist rhyme? My Taoist rhyme is being suppressed by it. Like, heavenly might. Is this guy's strength really that strong? A series of question marks flashed across Bai Lin's mind. However, Bai Lin did not have time to think as the sword qi rushed towards him. His Taoist rhyme was being suppressed by the heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme, and he could not overpower Chu Kuangren in terms of foundation. It did not take long for him to retreat. It's not good for me if this goes on. Bai Lin thought to himself. Although it was embarrassing for a boundary emperor like him to be suppressed by a sage, his life was of course more important than his pride. In a flash, his figure turned into a ray of fire and flew into the distance. Obviously, he knew that he was no match for Chu Kuangren, so he fled. Where do you think you're going? Chu Kuangren let out an indifferent roar. His spiritual thoughts surged and a huge silver-white talisman appeared in the void. It was the spatial freeze rune. Chapter 480. Bai Lin was ready to escape, but Chu Kuangren's spatial freeze rune slowed him down tremendously. What? Bai Lin's expression changed. He felt as if the space around him had turned into a quagmire. If it were not for his boundary emperor cultivation level, he would have been frozen in mid-air. However, even if he could move, his speed was like that of a snail in Chu Kuangren's eyes. Stay. Chu Kuangren sneered and swung the descendant self-sword in his hand. A piercingly cold sword-based Taoist rhyme surged and engulfed Bai Lin in the blink of an eye. The piercingly cold Tao runes mixed with powerful spiritual power were wantonly cutting his body. The dignified quasi-emperor let out a blood-curdling scream at this moment. He desperately urged his spiritual power to cover the surface of his body with the flow of fire, trying to use this method to block the invasion of the sword qi. However, everything he did was futile. The power of the sword qi was far beyond his imagination. That was a sword qi that was infused with the heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. No, if this goes on, I'll really die here. I've only just awakened. How can I die here? I can't let this happen. A look of determination appeared in Bai Lin's eyes. His body suddenly exploded, and a bloody mist blossomed in the air like a demonic flower. However, an unimaginably powerful and terrifying flow of fire swept out immediately after. The expressions of the spectators in the surroundings changed drastically when they saw the flame current sweeping out. This power was enough to be fatal even to a saint king. This is bad. Retreat. A boundary emperor was forced to self-destruct. This is too terrifying. Faced with the oncoming flame flow, everyone retreated frantically. What they suffered was only the aftermath. Chu Kuangren was the first to bear the brunt of Bai Lin's self-destruction. Using self-destruction to break through the seal of the freeze rune is quite daring. However, don't you think you can escape death just like that? You must be dreaming. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He raised his hand and gathered runes to form an indestructible runic barrier in front of him, blocking all the flame flow. Then he saw a ray of light dashing out from the flame flow and into the distance. That was Bai Lin's spiritual body. Chu Kuangren's spiritual thought surged out, intending to use the spatial conveyor technique to catch up. However, as if he suddenly thought of something, he purposely slowed down the speed of his spiritual thought. I'd like to see where you can run to. He suddenly recalled that when he was killing Quasi-Emperor Wua, someone had come out to stop him. Could there be some connection between these quasi-emperors? He could use Bailin to verify it. In any case, the other party would not be able to escape from his grasp. Just as Chu Kuangren was chasing after Bailin with his spiritual thought, the godly phoenix at the mouth of the volcano suddenly opened its eyes. Its charred body was once again lit up with golden flames, and the godly phoenix's aura continued to rise. It's alive. The divine phoenix is alive. The divine phoenix is not dead. This is Nirvana. The legend was true. The divine phoenix could really be reborn. Moreover, the divine phoenix will become even more powerful after its Nirvana rebirth. The crowd of cultivators exclaimed. Accompanied by a long howl, the godly phoenix stood up and flew into the sky. The charred skin and feathers on its body continued to fall off as a large amount of fire-based chi entered its body, causing the golden nirvana flames to burn even more vigorously. It was also continuously rebuilding its body. At that moment, all the birds in the firmament star looked towards the godly phoenix's direction and let out high-pitched cries as if they were celebrating. The myriad birds worship. Waves of Taoist rhymes reverberated in the sky. It was as if the heavens and earth were congratulating the divine beast for its advancement. The nirvana is complete. Chu Kuangren smiled. His spiritual thought had also captured the last place Bailin's spiritual body had gone to. Lil Red, let's go. I'll bring you to kill someone. Chu Kuangren lifted his arm and an incredibly mysterious spatial energy enveloped himself and the godly phoenix. The godly phoenix Lil Red trusted Chu Kuangren completely, so it did not resist the sudden appearance of this spatial energy. In an instant, the human and the godly phoenix disappeared right under everyone's noses. Inside a cave abode in the Nether Abyss Valley, an old man with a white beard, a black robe and slightly sunken eyes was resting with his eyes closed. Suddenly the old man's eyelids twitched. He opened his eyes and said in surprise, I don't know why, but I've been feeling uneasy lately, especially after I met that Chu Kuangren. The old man could not help but reveal a hint of anger in his eyes when he thought of Chu Kuangren. He swore that Chu Kuangren was the most arrogant and despicable sage he had ever met. How dare he kill a boundary emperor of the Nether Abyss Valley right in front of him? However, at the same time he had to admit that Chu Kuangren was also the most talented cultivator he had ever met. In this era of great battles with his capabilities, it's very likely that he will become an emperor. Unless necessary, it's best not to have any conflict with him. The old man mumbled helplessly. Valley Lord, save me. At that moment, a panicked cry for help came from afar. The entire Nether Abyss Valley heard it. The expression of the old man, who was the Nether Abyss Valley Lord, changed slightly. That's Bailin's voice. What happened to him? Bailin, who was left with only a spiritual body, rushed into the Nether Abyss Valley in a panic and screamed for help. His voice also alerted all the boundary emperors in the Nether Abyss Valley who were either slowly awakening or had already awakened. One by one they released their spiritual thoughts to check on him. The results of the inspection shocked everyone. That's Bailin, right? Why is he only left with a spiritual body? To be able to make Bailin so flustered, who forced him to this state? Could it be that the quasi-emperors of the other forbidden lands made a move? Everyone has just awakened. Who would have fought Bailin so quickly? Just when everyone was in a state of shock, the void above the Nether Abyss Valley suddenly distorted, and two figures slowly walked out from it. An extremely domineering aura descended. Those two figures were Chu Kuangren and the godly phoenix who had chased after Bailin. The heavenly punishment's aura and the divine beast's aura swept across the entire Nether Abyss Valley, shocking all the boundary emperors who were hiding there. It's a divine beast. It's not just a divine beast. That young man beside him is the supreme sage who has been causing a commotion in the outside world recently. I can't believe this person would suddenly come to the Nether Abyss Valley. It seems that Bailin's current state is related to this person. In the outside world, only this person has such capabilities. Meanwhile, the Nether Abyss Valley Lord, who was in the cave abode, almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was just thinking of not provoking Chu Kuangren if it was not necessary. but Bailin had brought him directly to the Nether Abyss Valley. Moreover, by the looks of it, he did not come with good intentions. However, the Nether Abyss Valley Lord was the owner of a forbidden area, and Bailin was a member of the Nether Abyss Valley. He could not just sit back and watch. Hence, he sighed helplessly and instantly disappeared. Meanwhile, above the Nether Abyss Valley, Chu Kuangren scanned the entire Nether Abyss Valley with his spiritual thoughts and found a large number of seals. It seemed that there were many powerful existences hidden within these seals, preventing his spiritual thoughts from probing inside. One of the 10 great forbidden areas, the Nether Abyss Valley, is actually a hiding place for a group of boundary emperors. Interesting. Chu Kuangren smirked. Chapter 481. Chu Kuangren and the godly phoenix descended upon the Nether Abyss Valley, and their domineering aura swept out like a hurricane. All the boundary emperors in the Nether Abyss Valley were shaken. Then Chu Kuangren looked at Bailin's spiritual form not far away, and a black chain suddenly appeared in his hand. That chain was the soul retriever that he had not used for a long time. The soul retriever shot out like a bolt of lightning, and in the blink of an eye, it had captured Bailin's soul. Then Chu Kuangren channeled his spiritual power and yanked, instantly dragging Bailin before him. The boundary emperor was like a dog that had been tied up. There was no way for him to escape. At that moment, the Nether Abyss Valley Lord appeared in the void. He looked at Chu Kuangren and said, "Brother Chu, I wonder what kind of grudge you have with the Nether Abyss Valley? Why do you keep targeting us?" Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised to hear that voice, but he chuckled. This voice. "You're the one who stopped me from killing Boundary Emperor Wei in the Heavenly Golden Palace. Looks like I've come to the right place. Valley Lord, save me. Save me." Bailin cried out as if he had seen his savior the moment he saw the Nether Abyss Valley Lord. Chu Kuangren, who was beside him, tugged on the soul retriever, and an extremely chilling energy erupted. Even a boundary emperor like Bailin could not help but shiver. The other boundary emperors who were observing from the shadows could not help but feel a little fearful. That chain isn't that high in grade. It's only a sage ruler weapon, but it's specifically used to target souls. That's quite scary. Not to mention that Bailin is in his spiritual form. He's defenseless against that chain. The Nether Abyss Valley Lord's expression turned even uglier when he saw Bailin's miserable state. "Chu Kuangren, what do you want?" "What do I want?" Chu Kuangren raised an eyebrow and sneered. "I should be the one asking what the Nether Abyss Valley wants. First, Boundary Emperor Wu stopped me from destroying the Heavenly Golden Palace. And now this B***starred wants to take over the godly phoenix's body while she's undergoing nirvana. Now you're asking me what I want? I'd like to ask what the Nether Abyss Valley wants. Do you really think that I, Chu Kuangren, am a pushover?" Chu Kuangren's tone was so cold that it was freezing at the end of his sentence. The domineering aura on his body rose to its peak as dark clouds gathered in the sky behind him. Thunder rumbled and a terrifying heavenly aura swept across, causing the entire Nether Abyss Valley to tremble. The wrath of a single person was like the wrath of the heavens. Even a quasi-emperor would be horrified to see such a method. "You." The Nether Valley Master was rendered speechless. "What, you have nothing to say?" Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then he abruptly pulled the soul retriever and activated his spiritual power, pushing the soul retriever's power to its limit. An extremely chilling energy instantly enveloped Bailin, and his spiritual body began to crack before it shattered into countless light spots. Chu Kuangren then activated his universal cauldron physique to absorb a huge amount of soul energy that leaked out. Upon seeing this, the Lord of Nether Valley's face darkened with anger. Chu Kuangren had once again killed the Nether Abyss Valley's boundary emperor in front of him. "Chu Kuangren, you're forcing me to attack," the Nether Valley Master said coldly as the Taoist rime on his body continued to rise. He was a top-notch existence in this world. Even in the 9 heavens apart from the emperors, he was still a top-notch powerhouse. He had his own temper. Chu Kuangren had repeatedly slapped him in the face, so he was already furious. As for the idea of not provoking Chu Kuangren, it had long been thrown to the back of his mind. After all, Chu Kuangren had come looking for trouble. "When you tried to stop me from killing Boundary Emperor Wu, I've already told you not to let me know where you are. Otherwise I'll come and kill you. Chu Kuangren chuckled. I've always been a man of my words. See, I'm here now. Then you can stay here. The Nether Valley Master yelled, and the Taoist rhyme that belonged to a top-notch boundary emperor instantly gushed out and surged towards Chu Kuangren like a tidal wave. Chu Kuangren did not back down. Instead he unleashed his Taoist rhyme to fight back. That was the heavenly punishment Taoist rhyme. There was no Taoist rhyme in this world that could overpower him. The Valley Master has made his move. It's been years since I've seen the Valley Master in action. A supreme sage? I wonder just what level his strength has reached. The boundary emperors in the Nether Valley were discussing among themselves. However, none of them made a move. Although the Nether Valley Master was the Nether Valley Master in name, his status was not much higher than the other boundary emperors. Strictly speaking, he was only the Nether Valley Master, not the boundary emperors. For example, the Nether Valley was like an inn, and the boundary emperors were the guests staying in the inn. They had already paid a lot of resources when they moved into the Nether Valley. As the master of this place, the Nether Valley Master was naturally furious that his guests were killed one after another. However, he did not really want to avenge those who had died. He merely wanted to regain his dignity. The Nether Abyss Valley Lord knew that Chu Kuangren's strength was extraordinary and could not be treated as an ordinary sage. Hence he did not dare to be careless in this battle. He raised his arm and took out a dark red longsword. The blade of the sword was covered with a layer of fine patterns that resembled dragon scales. A surge of resentment that was so dense that it almost materialized emanated from it. This is the dragon scale blood saber. It was once tainted with the blood of a true dragon. A long time ago I've used this saber to slay countless strong enemies and absorbed their resentment into it. Although it's only a boundary emperor weapon, I'm confident that even a true emperor weapon wouldn't be able to defeat it. The Nether Valley Master held the dragon scale blood saber in his hand and said proudly, "Have you seen a true emperor weapon before?" Chu Kuangren said calmly and kept the soul retriever. With a lift of his hand, a golden trident slowly appeared out of thin air with a surge of Emperor's aura. The Emperor weapon, Empyrean Neptune's halberd, had reappeared. With Chu Kuangren's current cultivation level, the Empyrean Neptune's halberd's power was even more powerful. The moment he held the halberd in his hand, it was as if he had truly transformed into an emperor who could control the ocean. A large amount of torrential force instantly filled the entire Nether Valley. It was as if everyone could hear the sound of a tsunami. It was not as if. Everyone saw that the extremely dense torrential force had actually condensed into seawater in the air. Thunder rumbled in the sky, followed by a torrential downpour. In the blink of an eye, the torrential rain had drowned half of the Nether Valley, turning many valleys into a swamp. "Come, I'll show you the power of an emperor weapon." Chu Kuangren held the Empyrean Neptune's halberd in his hand and swung it down. The sound of a tsunami reverberated through the air as the majestic torrential force wrapped around the Empyrean Neptune's halberd. It was as if an entire ocean was crashing towards the Nether Valley Master. The Nether Valley Master's expression changed slightly as he raised his saber to block the attack. The collision between the Empyrean Neptune's halberd and the dragon scale blood saber let out a deafening sound as horrifying palm chi gushed out. Meanwhile, the Nether Valley Master could only feel an incomparably terrifying force pouring towards him. His arm was almost broken by that tremendous force, and the dragon scale blood saber almost slipped out of his grasp. With just one attack, the Nether Valley Master was already at a disadvantage. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.